Chapter 394. In ruins. After hearing Yi Xian's words, Wei Zhentian nodded and turned into a small bird that flew into the sky. He knew that Yi Xian needed a large number of Saint Beast corpses, so he wanted to find out where the beast hordes were. As for Yi Xian, he also looked around. At this time, he landed in a deserted city. The surroundings were dark, but Yi Xian could see clearly with the help of his bloodline. "Ein wind mantis ha." Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. His figure flashed as he charged towards his first target. This Ein wind mantis that he had his eyes on, under the influence of the Ein ruins, had grown to the strength of 75 dragons. Although it was 5 dragons stronger than Yi Xian, it couldn't escape the fate of being instantly killed. Rip! With a crisp sound, the head of the Ein wind mantis was thrown into the air. Then, its corpse was absorbed into Yi Xian's devour space. Yi Xian kept the corpse and devoured the Saint Beast's soul. The next Beast King rampage will require a large number of Saint Beast corpses with 80 dragons of strength. There are only 70 Saint Beasts in the Ein ruins, so I'm afraid it will take some time to collect them. Yi Xian thought in his heart and left the place. He estimated that if he used 70 Saint Beast corpses to make up for it, the unit would be at least 1,000, or even 10,000. Anyway, it would be a long slaughter. Yi Xian was very fast. Even if he did not use martial arts, his speed was comparable to an expert with 85 dragons. With such speed, these Saint Beasts could not catch up to him. They were all killed instantly. Yi Xian ran quickly, killing Saint Beasts along the way, devouring their souls and collecting the heaven and earth treasures in the Ein ruins. In 5 minutes, he killed hundreds of Saint Beasts and his cultivation base increased. He estimated that it would only take a few hours to collect the required number of Beast King rampage corpses. At this time, Wei Zhentian returned. "How was it? Did you find anything?" Yi Xian turned to look at Wei Zhentian, who had turned into a small bird. "GG." Yi Xian raised an eyebrow. "You're saying that you found 1,000 Ein wind spiders?" "GG." Wei Zhentian nodded. "All right, take me there." Wei Zhentian immediately turned into a big bird and flew away with Yi Xian. Over 1,000 Saint Beasts was a huge number. Yi Xian thought that if he were to devour all of these Saint Beast souls, he should be able to break through to 71 dragons. Not long after, Wei Zhentian brought Yi Xian to a canyon. The walls on both sides of the canyon were filled with potholes and countless caves. It was obvious that this was the nest of the Ein wind spiders. Hiss! Suddenly, a gust of wind entered Yi Xian's ears. He turned his head and saw bundles of white spider silk flying towards him. He had been discovered. Yi Xian swung his sword and cut off the spider web, then jumped down. At the same time, Wei Zhentian turned into an aerial fortress like a transformer. Bang! 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 Wei Zhentian began to shoot at high speed. Although its realm was not as high as the Ein wind spiders, it had the advantage of being able to fly. Moreover, it had many attacking methods. While it was shooting, it would also shoot out tracking bullets to attack the nearest Ein wind spiders. If an ordinary person had formed a contract with Wei Zhentian, they would not be in such a state. However, Yi Xian was not an ordinary person. He came from Earth. Plop! After Yi Xian landed on the ground, he shattered the Bahuang sword. He was not stupid enough to kill the Ein wind spiders alone. Naturally, he would use the powerful Bahuang wind formation. As for himself, he took out a high-quality heaven artifact and displayed the underworld sword technique. Bahuang wind formation. Underworld sword technique. Sword descends to the underworld. This nest of Ein wind spiders seemed to have at least 2,000 Ein wind spiders. After hearing the loud noise, these Ein wind spiders all crawled out of their nests. If one was surrounded by so many Ein wind spiders, even an expert with more than 80 dragons would have to shudder. However, Yi Xian killed them as if he was cutting tofu. His speed was so fast that it made one's heart palpitate. In less than 5 minutes, all of the Ein wind spiders with strength between 70 and 80 dragons were killed by Yi Xian. Then he kept them in the devouring space. The entire canyon became very desolate. Ding! The host has broken through to 71 dragons' power. The long-awaited system notification finally sounded. Good. Wei Zhentian, continue to search. Yi Xian ordered. These 2,000 Ein wind spiders were devoured by him. The sacred beast spirit was left behind. Although the number was large, The realm of the corpses was not enough. They were still far from the Beast King's berserk state. However, what Yi Xian did not know was that while he was hunting the Yin ruins, many teams had entered the Yin ruins from various directions. Their target was the center of the Yin ruins. At this time, it had been half a day since they entered the Yin ruins. In this half a day, he had killed thousands of sacred beasts of different realms. This allowed him to break through to 72 dragons. Of course, Wei Zhentian's aerial reconnaissance was indispensable. Now, Wei Zhentian was back. How big of a group did you find? Yi Xian looked at Wei Zhentian, who had turned into a cute little bird, and asked. Chirp chirp. Wei Zhentian shook his head. What? You said that you encountered a team of 30 people. They seem to be from a large faction. Each of them has a strength of around 80 dragons? Yi Xian understood Wei Zhentian's meaning. The Yin ruins was a suitable place for training. Although there were not many opportunities, there were many sacred beasts here. It was a good place to earn money. While Yi Xian was hunting, he had seen many lone wolves. However, it was strange for such a powerful team to appear. After all, an expert with 80 dragons was enough to run amok in the Yin ruins. 80 dragons. Were they going to flatten the Yin ruins? There's something fishy. Yi Xian was interested and said, Take me to have a look. Don't be discovered by them. Wei Zhentian understood and turned into a big bird that could carry one person and flew high up in the sky. It was dark 24 hours in the Yin ruins. Even an expert with 100 dragons would not be able to discover Yi Xian. Wei Zhentian carried Yi Xian and flew towards the team. Soon, Yi Xian saw the team. When Yi Xian saw a young man among the 3 leaders, his eyes lit up. Wasn't this young man the young sect leader of the Gui Yuan sect? I've searched high and low for you, only to find you by chance. I didn't look for you, but you delivered yourself to me. Yi Xian squinted his eyes. That's right, this team was the disciples of the Heavenly Hatred Sword sect. Yi Xian scanned the team but did not find the old man who had injured him before. He's not here. His heart sank. Chapter 395. Interest. Although Yi Xian really wanted to go down immediately and cause trouble for these people, he was afraid that the old man would be nearby. If they met, he would definitely enter the gates of hell this time. After all, the Beast King's berserk couldn't be used yet. Moreover, he wanted to see what the Heaven Hatred Sword sect was doing. At this time, the elite team of the Heaven Hatred Sword sect did not notice Yi Xian in the air. Yu Kong, the young lord of the Gui Yuan sect, who was walking in front of the team, asked, Senior brothers, how much longer do we need to travel? Hearing this, a tall young man replied, Soon, we will be there soon. I think it will take another 10 minutes. 10 minutes? Yu Kong nodded slightly. The tall young man asked again, What's wrong, junior brother you? Yu Kong shook his head. Nothing, I just have a bad premonition. Haha, don't worry, our purpose is to clean up that desolate city and find the hidden entrance. The tall young man laughed. That's right, we are not qualified to enter the ruins of the previous overlord. Our mission is to kill the surrounding saint beasts and find the entrance. The third handsome young man leading the team said. But, Elder Yen has been gone for half an hour. Yu Kong frowned. The tall young man continued. Don't be afraid, Elder Yen is an expert of 120 dragons, stronger than the overlord before he broke through. He just went to the other forces first. Yes, the secret of this ruins was discovered by the Heaven Hatred Sword sect, and then we told the other forces. If these people dare to burn the bridge after crossing the river, the sect leader will definitely destroy them. The handsome young man agreed. I hope I am overthinking. Yu Kong nodded slightly and did not say anything. This time, he was looking for the ruins of the 6th Redwood Overlord. The Heaven Hatred Sword sect was the first to discover this news, but they did not have the strength to explore alone, so they invited other forces. Their team was the vanguard of the Heaven Hatred Sword sect, responsible for finding the entrance, cleaning it up, and then letting the experts of the sect explore. Soon they found their target. At this time, they had already arrived at the largest abandoned city in the Yin ruins. We are here. Elder Hu said that the entrance is in this city, but he does not know the specific location. Therefore, we must tear down this city and find the entrance that is hidden by the formation, said the tall young man. The other forces will probably take a while before they arrive. Let's make a move first. Junior Marshal Brother Yu, your team will enter the city and clear out the Saint Beasts. We'll stay here and tear down the city. The handsome young man turned around and said. Yukong nodded. Okay. Cleaning up Saint Beasts was a lucrative job. After all, martial artists also needed a large number of Saint Beast souls to cultivate. Then, Yukong left with a group of people. As for the remaining 20 or so people, they began to tear down the city wall. This scene entered Yi Xian's eyes, causing the corners of his mouth to slightly curl up. He really delivered himself to my doorstep, hee. He took out an Ultraman Tiga mask from the devouring space. After changing his outfit, he asked Wei Zhentian to bring him into the city. Just now, he had been observing for a while. That old man probably had something to do, so he wasn't with them. This was a great opportunity for him. For the time being, he couldn't take revenge for the 3 days of pain, but he could collect some interest. Yi Xian hid in the surrounding houses and waited quietly. In less than 10 seconds, several silhouettes entered his 1,000-meter sensing range. It was Yu Kang's team of 10. Senior Martial Brother Yu, what should we do now? A disciple of the Heaven's Hatred Sword sect asked. When Yukong heard that, he said, the 9 of you will split into groups of 3 and hunt the Saint Beasts. Don't wander too far. Okay. The 9 of them nodded and split into 3 groups. As for Yukong, he was alone. He had 80 dragon power and had learned a middle-grade heaven-level martial art. His strength was second only to the 2 people from before. However, even his father, the sect leader of the Gue Yuan sect, who had 85 dragon power, was defeated by Yi Xian. He, who only had 80 dragon power, was naturally no match for Yi Xian. To be on the safe side, Yi Xian's first target was not him, but the other 9 people. Why? Because Yi Xian's demonic ape transformation could only be used once. However, the Gue Yuan sect had a martial art that could increase one's strength. The sect leader of the Gue Yuan sect had used it before, and his strength had increased from 85 dragon power to 88 dragon power. Yi Xian was worried that Yukong had it too. So, in order not to waste the demonic ape transformation, he dealt with the other 9 people first. After all, they were disciples of a large sect. Their talents were superior, and their strength was naturally incomparable to ordinary people. Little Tian, keep an eye on him. Yi Xian instructed and then disappeared into the shadows. The 9 elite disciples of the Heaven's Hatred Sword sect were silently beheaded by Yi Xian. There was no sound at all. These 9 disciples of the Heaven's Hatred Sword sect had 78 or 79 dragon power. Moreover, they seemed to be of high status, so there were many good things in their interspatial rings. Ding! The host has broken through to 73 dragon power. With the help of these things, Yi Xian also successfully broke through. Although these 9 disciples of the Heaven's Hatred Sword sect did not offend Yi Xian, who asked them to join the Heaven's Hatred Sword sect. This was their fate. Alright, it's time to find trouble with Yukong. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. Although Wei Zhentian had not returned, he could sense the direction of Wei Zhentian. Immediately, he chased after him. At this moment, Yukong was completely unaware that danger was approaching. Humph! How dare you be arrogant in front of me with merely 80 dragon power? Yukong snorted coldly. He was fighting with a chilling wind mantis. This chilling wind mantis had 80 dragon power, which made its armor extremely tough. However, it was useless in front of the elite disciple of the Heaven's Hatred Sword sect, Yukong. Kacha! 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 A series of crisp sounds rang out. Yukong was using a middle-grade heaven-class martial art. Although he was not very good at it and only had 40% mastery, its power was much stronger than a lower-grade heaven-class martial art. Under the attack of the middle-grade heaven-class martial art, the chilling wind mantis was beaten to a pulp and soon died under Yukong's sword. Tesveske, a Saint Beast soul with 80 dragon power can improve my cultivation by a lot. Yukong sneered and kept the corpse. However, at this moment, a strange change occurred. Whoosh whoosh. The sound of a gust of wind suddenly appeared, and before Yukong could react, a figure swept to his side. Rip. Immediately after, Yukong felt his legs turn cold and his entire upper body involuntarily fell to the ground. Both of his legs had been chopped off. What? Chapter 396. Total annihilation. Yukong's upper body fell to the ground. He turned his head in horror and saw a figure standing in front of him. It was a man in black wearing a strange mask. Who is it? Yukong couldn't figure out who wanted to kill him. Young sect master, how have you been? Yi Xian said coldly. Hearing this voice, Yukong immediately reacted. Didn't this voice belong to the thief who cut off his father's arm that day? You're not dead? How is that possible? Yukong couldn't believe it. He had heard with his own ears that Elder Yen, one of the 120 dragons, said that Yi Xian had been hit by the 3 days muscle-breaking hand. Now, 3 days had passed. How could Yi Xian still be standing in front of him, alive and kicking? Moreover, his strength had become even stronger? Do you think that I will die after being hit by the 3 days muscle-breaking hand? Yi Xian sneered and slashed twice, cutting off both of Yukong's arms. Yukong was reduced to a cripple. He couldn't escape or attack. Hiss! Yukong sucked in a few breaths of cold air. The pain of his 4 limbs being broken almost made him faint. This was the first time he had been beaten to such a state. He couldn't help but reveal a look of despair. Let's cut to the chase. What's the name of the person who tried to kill me that day? Where is he now? Yi Xian asked coldly. Yukong clenched his teeth and growled. Kill me if you want. Do you think I will tell you? That's where you're wrong. I'm looking for him to take revenge. If you tell me where he is, I will naturally find him and send myself to death. At that time, I might even be able to accompany you to hell. Yi Xian suddenly cracked a joke. Yukong was stunned. He couldn't figure out Yi Xian's intention. However, he would definitely not tell Yi Xian about Elder Yan's whereabouts. Looks like you're a tough nut to crack. Don't worry, he will be buried with you. Yi Xian was too lazy to interrogate him. He swept his sword and cut off Yukong's head. After he died, his corpse was also put away by Yi Xian. Let me see how many good things you, the young sect leader of the Gui Yuan sect, have. Yi Xian took his Chen Kuan ring and poured its contents into the devouring space. He probed around and found quite a few precious items. Among them, the most useful item for Yi Xian was undoubtedly the 300-year-old dragon's bloodgrass. He estimated that this dragon bloodgrass would allow him to break through to the strength of 2 dragons. Immediately, he swallowed the dragon bloodgrass. Ding! Host has broken through to 75 dragon power. Then, he devoured those heavenly treasures. Ding! Host has broken through to 77 dragons power. The harvest this time also exceeded Yi Xian's expectations. Gaining 4 dragons of strength in one go was already very good. Alright, little Tian, these are all for you. Yi Xian poured out all the heaven artifacts and ores from his interspatial ring. Then, he moved on to other things. Ding! Martial arts fusion failed. Ding! Martial arts fusion failed. Ding! Martial arts fusion failed. He had obtained quite a few low-tier heaven-level martial arts. Naturally, he wanted to fuse them. When he was robbing the Gui Yuan sect, he forgot about this. There were hundreds of different sword techniques. Some were good and some were bad. Yi Xian had the middle-tier heaven-level underworld sword technique. Naturally, he would not learn these. What he wanted was the middle-tier heaven-level martial arts. After dozens of notifications, Yi Xian finally revealed a smile. These 100 martial arts had finally been successfully fused together once. The Heaven's Hatred Sword Sect was one of the big sects in the Redwood territory. Naturally, they would have middle-tier heaven-level martial arts. Yukong and the others had a few. Therefore, Yi Xian took the 6 middle-tier heaven-level martial arts, including the underworld sword technique, and fused them again. Ding! Martial arts fusion failed. Ding! Martial arts fusion failed. Ding! Martial arts fusion failed. The 3 notifications made Yi Xian's face fall. It was not that easy to fuse martial arts. This martial arts fusion is really a trap. Forget it. Even if I get an upper-tier heaven-level martial art, I probably won't be able to use it. Yi Xian shook his head and chose to give up. This was because he could only train the underworld sword technique to 60%. Even if he had an upper-tier heaven-level martial art, he would only be able to train it to 30%. Of course, he regretted that he did not find the Gui Yuan sect's martial art in Yukong's interspatial ring. However, it did not matter. After all, one's own martial art was still the most important. Immediately, he rode Wei Zhentian and left, heading towards the city's gate. The Heaven's Hatred Sword Sect and the other 2 teams were all Yi Xian's targets. For safety's sake, He still circled around in the air a few times before landing on the ground. Although his martial art was lower than the weakest person, his strength was far superior to the others. In addition to his outstanding concealment skills, he easily defeated 10 people. What's going on? Where did the junior brothers go? The tall young man looked around in surprise and found that there were fewer and fewer people. Moreover, he had clearly instructed them not to go too far. However, he did not expect that these people had been killed. He continued to work. The group of disciples that came were all elites. They all had the strength to run amok in the dark ruins. Therefore, he was not worried. However, he could not help but frown in the next moment. This was because he saw that the handsome young man with 80 dragons of power had also disappeared. At this moment, only 3 people appeared in front of him. Senior Brother Wu. Where are Senior Brother Chen and the others? A disciple also asked in surprise. Now, everyone present reacted. Their mission was to demolish the entire city. Naturally, they had to use violent means to do so. However, after they stopped, they did not hear any sound. It was obvious that only the 4 of them were present. Oh no, they're dead. The tall young man immediately reacted. However, at this moment, whoosh! Under the night sky, a cold light flashed. Before the tall young man could react, his head was separated from his body. The remaining 3 disciples' eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. The strongest person in the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sex Elite team was killed in an instant. They could not even see how the tall young man died. Run! The 3 of them reacted. However, by the time they turned around, 8 cold rays of light had already shot out and taken their heads. Now, the team from the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect was completely wiped out. Yi Xian had also broken through to 79 dragons of power because of this. Not only that, but he had also collected enough sacred beast corpses. The icon of Beast King Rampage had lit up, which meant that he could use this trump card. If I use Beast King Rampage now, I can reach 100 dragons of power. Coupled with the movement bonus from 2 agility advancements, I should be able to fight that old man. Chapter 397. Silver Plume Palace. However, Yi Xian still wanted to use the Beast King Rampage to collect more Saint Beast corpses. Not only could he level up, but he might also be able to collect 2 Saint Beast corpses from the Beast King Rampage. However, the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sex Elite team must have a motive for coming to the Een Ruins, so he had to postpone this plan. Chop chop! At this moment, Wei Zhentian, who was scouting in the air, suddenly landed and called out softly. Someone else is here? Yi Xian squinted his eyes and let Wei Zhentian carry him up to 1,000 meters in the air. Using the darkness, he hid. Then, he squinted his eyes and saw another team of dozens of people. I don't know which faction they are from, but the leader should be very strong. Yi Xian frowned. This team had exactly 30 people, but they were all older, probably around 40 years old. All of them were wearing silver clothes, which was very eye-catching in the night. Therefore, Yi Xian estimated that these people's strength exceeded 90 dragons, or even 100 dragons. This team was actually from the Silver Plume Palace, which was on good terms with the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect. This team came from the same direction as the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect, so they saw the demolished city wall. They're already demolishing it? It can't be, there's no movement at all. Could it be that they just happened to find the entrance? Impossible, the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect only sent a team of disciples to find the exit. They're still gathering people, and it will take half a day for them to arrive. The Silver Plume Palace people began to discuss. The middle-aged leader had a cold expression. He walked into the city wall and felt a very strange atmosphere. He quickly circled around and found that something was amiss. The smell of blood. There was a battle here, and some humans died here. The middle-aged man frowned. What? When the others heard this, they were also shocked. Great Elder, could it be the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect? Someone blurted out. There's a smell of blood here. Something must have happened. You guys look around and see if you can find anything. The middle-aged man said. Then, the group of people dispersed and began to search for clues. They were all experts with strength of over 90 dragons, and there were even a few with strength of 100 dragons. The leader of the group was a super expert with strength of 115 dragons. Being in the Een Ruins was equivalent to them returning home. Although these people had separated, Yi Xian did not dare to move because he could see that these people were all first-class experts. These 30 people all had over 90 dragon powers, and there were even a few who had over 100 dragon powers. As for the middle-aged man in the lead, he was a super expert with 115 dragons. There must be something here. There are so many experts here. Could it be that this is the cave of some expert? Yi Xian guessed as he hovered in the air. The more he thought about it, the more suspicious he became. In any case, there was definitely something good here. Otherwise, why would these great forces send so many experts? Humph. I'll watch from here. Yi Xian waited quietly above. The group of people below searched around but did not find anything. They only found a trace of blood. They guessed that the elites of the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect had been killed. However, they did not understand who did it. In the Redwood territory, there were not many people who dared to provoke the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect. Moreover, they had cleaned up a group of elites. This was equivalent to forming a deadly feud with the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect. Forget it. We didn't kill them anyway. Since we're here first, we'll help them finish it. The three of you will form a group and begin. The middle-aged man did not care too much and instructed. This city was very big. However, for people of their level, they could flatten this place in less than half a day. Time passed bit by bit. After the Silver Feather Palace, another great force came. This force was called the Sun Moon Sect. The leader of this force was an expert with 120 dragons. Then the Wild Dragon Sect came. Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect, Silver Feather Palace, Sun Moon Sect, and Wild Dragon Sect. These four forces were the four great sects of the Redwood territory. They were second only to the Redwood City's City Lord Mansion. At the same time, Elder Yen also came with the Wild Dragon Sect. When he heard that more than 30 elite disciples of the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect had been killed, he almost fainted from anger. More than 30 elites. These people were the elites that the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect had nurtured as Spirit Realm seeds. Their deaths meant that all their previous efforts had been wasted. When Elder Yen heard the news, he could not help but roar towards the sky. He was determined to find the murderer. His roar almost frightened Yi Xian, who was sitting on Wei Zhentian's back, to the point that he fell off. It seemed that he had done a good job of drawing hatred. While the other forces were tearing down the city, he was running around the world. When the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect arrived, he had already taken more than 10 lives. All of them were substitutes for Yi Xian. This time, even the sect master of the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect was sent out. When he heard the news, he was furious. However, at this time the entrance of the cave was found. It was in an ordinary courtyard. This made the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect hesitate. Should they go out to find the murderer or go down with the other three forces? However, it had been quite some time since the death of the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect's elite team. The murderer might have already left the Een ruins. Therefore they could only go down first. The four forces brought a large number of people down. Above, each force left 3 people to guard the entrance. Each force had 3 people with 90 dragons of strength, so there were a total of 12 people. Leaving 12 people to guard, Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. He was very interested in the underground. A place that could attract the interest of a group of experts with 100 dragons of strength would naturally have great opportunities. However, even this group of experts had to find the entrance. Therefore, drilling into the ground was definitely not going to work. Moreover, if he wanted to go down, he had to get rid of these 12 people first. 12 experts with 90 dragons of strength. It is indeed a little troublesome. Yi Xian estimated in his heart. If he did not count his movement techniques, his 79 dragons of strength could already be compared to an expert with 95 dragons of strength. However, the other party's movement techniques might have been practiced to full mastery. Moreover, they were all experts. Facing 12 people, his 79 dragons of strength was not enough. However, the Beast King's Rage was his trump card. If he used it now, there was no need to go in. Therefore, the only thing that could be used now was the Demonic Ape Transformation. The Demonic Ape Transformation can increase my strength by 5 dragons with 70 dragons of strength. I wonder how much my 79 dragons of strength can increase my strength? Yi Xian thought helplessly. After thinking for a while, he quietly let Wei Zhentian land. Chapter 398. Celestial Stone Abode. Humph, I'll give it my all this once. If it doesn't work, then forget it. At most, I'll find a dangerous place to level up and take the opportunity to rob the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect. Yi Xian made up his mind. The 12 experts were also divided into 4 directions to guard the cave entrance, with 3 people in each direction. Yi Xian stealthily snuck over. The direction he chose was the direction of the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect. He was using the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect as a breakthrough point. Rather than saying that he was fighting 1 against 12, he was actually fighting 3 first. If everything went smoothly, then he might be able to increase his cultivation level. At that time, it would be easier for him to deal with 9 people. He held his breath, thought about it, and decided not to do so for now. Why am I so stupid? You can exchange for puppets in the devouring system. Even if it's a true profound realm puppet, you can still make some movements. It'll be much easier to split the 3 of them again. Yi Xian immediately took out a few puppets and sent them far away. When the time was right, he would make some noise. It's about time. Yi Xian calculated the time. Rumble. These puppets had been timed. Once the time was up, they began to attack each other. The sound of metal clashing rang out. The 12 people guarding the cave raised their heads in unison. It should be a saint beast. I'll deal with it. A member of the Heaven-Hating Sword Sect got up and ran into the distance. Soon, he disappeared into the darkness. However, not long after he left, another huge commotion came from another direction. How annoying. Can't you guys stop for a moment? I'm going to kill all the saint beasts in the surroundings. The second person also stood up and left. The second commotion was actually caused by Wei Zhentian. As a result, the 3 from the Heaven-Hatred Sword Sect were separated once again. Good chance. In the darkness, Yi Xian's eyes lit up. He was hiding near Wei Zhentian. His target was the elder of the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect who was running towards him. The elder of the Heaven-Hatred Sword Sect ran to the place where Wei Zhentian had bombarded just now empty-handed. Then, Wei Zhentian cooperated and transformed into a wind mantis. A chilling wind mantis that I have never seen before? The elder of the Heaven-Hating Sword Sect was a little surprised. He raised his hand and punched out. Bang! The fist shadow penetrated Wei Zhentian's body, but in the next moment, Wei Zhentian's body returned to normal. This kind of attack had no effect on him at all. If he wanted to kill Wei Zhentian, he would have to use a martial art that was more powerful and had a larger area of effect. He would have to completely disperse Wei Zhentian's body. This elder of the Heaven-Hatred Sword Sect was not a fool. He immediately understood. However, at this moment, the sound of wind suddenly appeared. Underworld swordsmanship. Sword descends to the underworld. Dang! Yi Xian suddenly charged out from the shadows. What? The elder of the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect was shocked. With his realm, how could he not notice that someone was hiding in the surroundings? He narrowed his eyes and realized that Yi Xian only had 80 dragon power. However, he snorted coldly. You overestimate yourself. Dang! The middle-aged man's eyes were filled with disdain as he punched out. However, he died because of his own carelessness. The 8 Desolate Sword was enough to make up for the difference of 10 dragon power. Yi Xian's slash was much more powerful than the elder's. It instantly dispersed the fist shadow and entered the elder's throat. A head flew up. The middle-aged man's eyes widened and he could no longer speak. Instant kill. Idiot! Yi Xian snorted coldly in his heart. He quickly put away the middle-aged man's interspatial ring and corpse. Ding! The host has broken through to 80 dragon power. Although it was said that one would not bring everything with them when traveling, the items in the middle-aged man's interspatial ring were enough for Yi Xian to break through. Previously, Yi Xian had used the Devil Ape transformation to break through from 79 dragon power to 80 dragon power. Now, he had truly reached 80 dragon power. Therefore, he temporarily possessed 81 dragon power. I can't stay here any longer. I have to kill the other person. He quickly rushed out and charged towards the first elder of the Heaven-Hatred Sword Sect. This elder was very careless and was easily killed by Yi Xian. At the same time, the items in his interspatial ring allowed Yi Xian to break through to 81 dragon power. It's so cool to challenge those of a higher level. Every time I kill, I'll level up. If I kill all 12 of them, I should be able to reach 85 dragon power, right? Yi Xian thought for a moment, then disappeared into the darkness again. The last elder of the Heaven Hatred Sword sect heard some commotion. He frowned and shouted, "What's going on between the two of you?" His voice was very loud, but there was no response. His expression changed. It seemed that something had happened. However, just as he was about to speak again, Yi Xian charged out of the darkness again. Rip! A crisp sound rang out. Heads flew up. It was another instant kill. 3 experts from the large sects with 90 dragon strength were all killed by Yi Xian within 5 seconds. What? The 9 experts in the other 3 directions were stunned. They immediately drew their weapons, looked at each other, and charged forward. At the same time, Yi Xian's level increased again. He reached 82 dragon power. However, the effect of the demonic ape transformation was minimal because of this. It could not increase his level to 83 dragon power. However, 82 dragon power was enough to kill these 9 people. Kill! Yi Xian randomly chose a direction and charged out. The strength of 82 dragons allowed him to possess a speed comparable to 100 dragons. These 9 martial artists with 90 dragon strength couldn't do anything to Yi Xian. Instead, they were defeated one by Yi Xian. A minute later. Ding! The proficiency of the Heaven Crippling Body technique has increased. The current proficiency is at 100%. The effect is doubled. Ding! The host has broken through to 85 dragon power. After Yi Xian devoured everyone's items, he finally broke through to 85 dragon power. Now he had the strength to go down. Although the essence blood of the demonic ape king was all used up, the demonic ape transformation was useless to him at his current level. His only trump card was the Beast King's Rage. Alright, let me see exactly where you 4 powers are going. Yi Xian entered the forcefully opened entrance. The tunnel was very dark. It was only enough for 2 people to walk side by side. It had only been 10 minutes since the 4 forces went down, so he walked very slowly. He was afraid of bumping into them. Yi Xian moved forward little by little. There was no sound coming from the tunnel. It seemed that the 4 forces did not encounter any danger. He walked for about half an hour before he saw a ray of green light. He cautiously approached and then took a look. His entire person was stunned. Underneath this city, there was actually an immortal's cave, a gigantic immortal's cave made of celestial blue stone. Damn it! Now there is a cave made of celestial stone. How much is this worth? Chapter 399. Qi Yan Lord. Thinking of the beginning, Yi Xian almost died for a fist-sized celestial bluestone. Now, unexpectedly there is a huge immortal's cave built by celestial bluestone, which is incredible. Yi Xian saw the money and immediately stabbed a sword into the wall, but it was bounced back. Sure enough, there is a powerful defensive formation. The person who built this big immortal's cave is at least a master of the spirit realm. Yi Xian guessed in his heart. He looked around and found that there was only one way to go forward, so he could only continue to go straight. He walked carefully for a while and found a big stone tablet. Later people, I am the Qi Yan Lord. I left a golden armor corpse king in the immortal's cave, and left the control method. If the destined person gets it, please pass on my corpse refining. This is the record on this big stone tablet. Qi Yan Lord. Yi Xian blinked and was confused. However, it can be seen from the name that this person should be a lord in the Luosha region, and he is proficient in refining corpses. Refining corpses, I don't know if the refining is a human corpse or a beast corpse. Yi Xian had some doubts in his heart. If it is a human corpse, then he can't devour it. If it is a beast corpse, then this red immortal's cave is a good upgrade for him. After the stone tablet, there is a door that has been pushed open. Obviously, the 4 forces have entered. Yi Xian silently approached the door, took a look, and discovered 4 forks in the road. 4 roads, 4 forces, should be separated to search for treasures. Yi Xian secretly thought a word. Gotcha! At this moment, suddenly a crisp sound, shocked his chrysanthemum shrank. He turned his head in horror and found that not far away, there were 2 people wearing bronze armor. No, it can't be said to be a person, it can only be said to be a humanoid creature. It has 2 sharp scythes. Wind mantis? Yi Xian stared. The 2 armors had stooped backs, and the 2 sharp scythes in their hands emitted a strange light. Their strength was unknown. This place was completely empty, and there was only 1 stone tablet. So where did these 2 bronze corpses come from? Yi Xian subconsciously raised his head and discovered that there were many beehive-like holes in the ceiling. These 2 bronze corpses had fallen from the ceiling. The next moment, Yi Xian discovered that the footsteps here were messy. There must have been a battle here. He calculated carefully and found that there were at least 150 holes. In other words, more than 100 bronze corpses should have fallen down. These 2 at the same time don't have the strength of the wyvern. I wonder what realm they are in. Yi Xian's heart sank as he looked at the 2 bronze corpses refined from wind mantises. Obviously, the strength of these 2 copper corpses was definitely stronger than when they were alive. Pa! At this moment, the 2 bronze corpses suddenly took a step forward and charged towards Yi Xian while brandishing their scythes. So fast. This speed had already exceeded 90 dragon powers. Yi Xian, who was originally on tenterhooks and ready to use Beast King Rampage at any time, relaxed a little when he saw the speed of these 2 bronze corpses. He could still easily deal with 90 dragon powers. Dragon-slaying Sword of Desolation. Appear. He condensed the dragon-slaying Sword of Desolation and charged forward. Yi Xian only had 85 dragon powers, but under the enhancement of his agility, his speed had exceeded 100 dragon powers. Dealing with these 2 bronze corpses was a piece of cake. But what was unbelievable was that these 2 wind mantises were refined into bronze corpses after death. Not only did their strength increase, but their defense also increased by a lot. Fortunately, they were still considered beasts, so the Beast King bloodline had an additional effect. They could not escape the fate of being killed by Yi Xian. Yi Xian put away the corpses. Although these 2 bronze corpses had their holy beast souls removed, their corpses could still be used by Yi Xian. Good, this is great. This is really a treasure trove. My need for the corpse of Beast King Rampage can be solved. Yi Xian was so happy that his mouth was almost crooked. Now that the 2 bronze corpses were dealt with, he turned his attention to the ceiling again. At this time, there were still hundreds of intact nests on the ceiling. If these bronze corpses were all taken down, then the corpses would be enough. Whoosh! Yi Xian used Dragon's Judgment and slashed at the ceiling, but it was dispersed by a layer of powerful energy. It seemed that there was also a formation on the ceiling. However, Yi Xian was unwilling to give up. He sat on Might Shakes the Heavens and tried to destroy the formation, but he spent a full 10 minutes without any effect. He gave up. However, his actions caused a huge commotion that was heard by all the forces. Strange, why does it sound like movement at the entrance? You must have heard wrongly. We are going to the left, and the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect is on the right. It must be the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect's battle. Let's go. Have you forgotten the words on the stone tablet? A golden armor corpse king. It's terrible. I didn't expect that in addition to the 2 silver corpses that were comparable to the First Order of the Royal Qi, the Red Liao Lord actually refined a stronger golden armor corpse king. If we let the Silver Feather Palace get it, then this Redwood territory is my Silver Feather Palace master. The 4 forces are crazy, and the pace is very fast. 2 silver corpses of the First Order of the Royal Qi. They have heard that although there are only 130 dragons, they are very good. The Golden Armor Corpse King is definitely stronger than the Silver Corpse, perhaps reaching the Second Order of the Royal Qi. The most important thing is that the Red Liao Lord also left the method of controlling the Golden Armor Corpse King, which is a huge wealth. You know, the current Redwood Lord is only 190 dragon power, not to the Second Order of the Royal Qi. At this time, at the door of the Red Refining Cave. Oh, sure enough, it can't be destroyed. Let's enter the cave. Yi Xian sighed and shook his head. It was not easy to see a hope, and it was aborted. In desperation, he had to step into the Red Refining Cave. This time, he has to be very careful, because even a copper corpse has the power of 90 dragons. Then the Golden Armor Corpse King, how strong is it? His power of 85 dragons. Whether he can find the Golden Armor Corpse King is still a problem. After entering the Red Refining Cave, Yi Xian paused at the crossroads. One left, one right, one left, one right, one left, one right. Yi Xian casually took out a weapon and turned it. The tip of the sword pointed to the left. Just to the left. Yi Xian did not think about it and entered the passage on the left. 4 forks, 4 forces, unless they have a map, otherwise they will not gather together, it must be scattered to explore. This road chosen by Yi Xian is the direction of the Silver Feather Palace. He is very careful to move forward, although there are treasures in front, but there are also dangers. Chapter 400. Alone Chuang Yixian estimates that as long as you go to a specific area, these copper corpses will fall. Therefore, he began to run around this passage, and the purpose was to lead these copper corpses down. Gotcha! His guess was correct. After he accidentally stepped into an area, the ceiling suddenly cracked open, and 2 bronze corpses fell down. This time, they were wind spiders. 2 spider copper corpses, each with 8 legs, rushed toward Yixian. Yixian hated this kind of disgusting thing with many feet, and immediately killed the past. These 2 spider copper corpses, one has the strength of 91 dragons, the other is 92 dragons. However, this is not of any use. In less than 2 seconds, they were cleaned up by Yixian one by one. The copper corpses do not have the soul of the holy beast, so for Yixian, it is only the corpse of the beast king Rage. This cleaning of the copper corpses just makes Yixian not accidentally catch up with the big forces in front of him. The appearance of this copper corpse is also strange, falling from the ceiling, rising from the floor, walking out of the wall, where Feng Zhang can come out. Yixian was extremely happy to kill. However, about half an hour after he entered the red refining cave, he also successfully collected thousands of corpses ranging from 99 dragons to 95 dragons. Now, he can use the Beast King Rage twice. At the same time, he also encountered a second fork in the road. This time, there are 3 forks in the road. Although I don't know which side is in my direction, these 3 forks should let them divide into 3 roads. Yixian thought in his heart. He recalled that this time the 4 forces, each side has about 30 people. If the army is divided into 3 roads, then each road should be no more than 10 people. Unfortunately, the number is still a bit large. Even if Yixian uses the Beast King Rage, it is not necessarily able to destroy the 10-person team. After all, this is the top force of the Redwood territory. Maybe there will be a middle-grade heaven tool or a middle-grade heaven-level martial art, which is very difficult to deal with. He carefully moved forward for half an hour. After killing hundreds of corpses, he finally encountered the 3rd fork in the road. This time, there are also 3 forks in the road, which makes Yixian's eyes light up. If the 10-person team is divided into 3 roads, then there are 3 people on one side. 3 people he can deal with it. Do it. I hope there are only 3 people. Yixian's eyes flashed. Even if he encountered a strong enemy, he could retreat. At the moment, he took off the mask of the Ultraman Tiga and then put on a Detective Conan mask. Death Primary School student. It's time to show your power. Kill! Yixian roared in his heart as he ran in a straight line, not even bothering with the copper corpses on the way. In front of him, there were indeed 3 martial artists. They were all elders of the Silver Plume Palace. Are you kidding? We are only encountering copper corpses now. Next there are iron corpses and silver corpses. With our realm, if we encounter a few iron corpses, we will have to fight to the death. Do you want to find the golden armored corpse king? If we encounter the golden armored corpse king, we are dead. You can't say that. What if we accidentally get the method to control these corpses? The 3 of them were chatting as they moved forward. Rumble. At this time, a rumbling sound suddenly came from behind them. Their tiger bodies shook. They turned around and found a huge stone rolling towards them. What the hell is this? We walked all the way. Why didn't we see such a big stone? It should be another mechanism. This Qilian overlord, in addition to liking to refine corpses, is also proficient in mechanisms, forging, and has a lot of tricks. I'll do it. A Silver Feather Palace elder walked out and suddenly punched the rolling stone that was dozens of meters high in front of him. The wind of the fist was whistling, bombarding the huge rolling stone. Rumble! The huge rolling stone was instantly smashed into pieces. However, when the rolling stone was torn apart, a person suddenly rushed out of the rolling stone. It was Yixian. Copper corpse? The 3 Silver Feather Palace elders were stunned. After seeing Yixian's strange mask, they suddenly reacted. However, they still felt that something was wrong, because Yixian's body was surrounded by flying dragons. 85 dragons. It's a human. The 3 of them opened their eyes. In this red refining immortal's cave, there are other humans. Hey, a mere 85 dragons, dare to come to the trouble of the 3 of us, see me shake you to death. The middle-aged man who smashed the rolling stone of Wei Zhentian took a few steps forward and blasted a punch at Yi Xian. However, this punch was avoided by Yi Xian. He was a little surprised. He was a master of 95 dragons. His attack was actually avoided by Yi Xian, who was 10 dragons. This was a shame. He blasted a few more punches, but they were all dodged by Yi Xian. At this time, he was only 1,000 meters away from Yi Xian. "Boy, I want you to die." The middle-aged man's eyes were bright, and he greeted him. His speed was much faster than Yi Xian. But how did he know that Yi Xian was just luring the enemy? His explosive speed was similar to that of a martial artist of 85 dragons. 800 meters. 600 meters. 300 meters. 100 meters. Just as the two were about to come into contact, Yi Xian's speed suddenly skyrocketed, and the Bahuang sword in his hand also condensed into a dragon-slaying sword. Dang! Yi Xian opened his eyes wide, and the speed that exceeded the strength of 100 dragons burst out in an instant. Hiss! A crisp sound spread in this passage and fell into the ears of the other two people. They saw a blood column soaring into the sky, like a spring, constantly sputtering blood in all directions. And this spring was their companion's throat. Instant kill. A 95 dragons expert was instantly killed. This. The two people looked at each other and watched as Yi Xian put away the universe ring. Then, another flying dragon appeared around him. 86 dragons. At this time, the two people finally reacted. Kill him. In an instant, flying dragons also rose around the two of them. The two of them both possessed 96 dragons' powers. Just now, Yi Xian had used a sneak attack to successfully kill the 95 dragons expert, but now it would not work. Their explosive speed was not slower than Yi Xian's at all. Sure enough, there is a middle-grade heaven-class movement technique. Yi Xian's eyes flashed. He did not find a middle-grade heaven-class movement technique in that person's universe ring. It seemed that the other party destroyed it after learning it. Boy, how dare you kill someone from Inu Palace? Dang! An old man with white eyebrows roared, and launched a storm-like attack at Yi Xian. Chapter 401. Chapter 401, New Arke Silver Feather Body Technique, Overestimating Yourself. Yi Xian shouted in his heart and greeted him. Although the other party has a mid-grade heaven-level body technique martial art, but because of the realm, they are not very proficient, only a little better than the heaven destruction body technique. And their own speed, but it is a lot worse than Yi Xian, so this battle in less than 10 seconds is also the winner. No, it is the life and death. 2 heads flew up and fell to the ground, and 2 blood fountains, staining the ground of the red refining cave. Hoo-hoo, the luck is not bad, the first to meet people with more than 90 dragons. If you meet 100 dragons, I am afraid it will not be so easy. Yi Xian breathed a sigh of relief, and the remaining 2 Chenkuan rings were put away. Ding, the host broke through to 87 dragon power. Realm, again promoted. He threw the ore weapons, and so on to Wei Zhentian. While Wei Zhentian was eating, he also took a break and looked at the other things in the Chenkuan ring. Well, at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly discovered something that wasn't right. It was a brocade box with a few heaven-level martial arts inside. However, Yi Xian suddenly found that the brocade box actually has a compartment. In the compartment, there is a martial art called the Silver Feather Body Technique. Mid-grade heaven-level body technique martial art? Yi Xian opened his eyes. Did not expect to have such a harvest. Haha, with this body technique martial art, my combat power can be improved to a higher level. Yi Xian was overjoyed and immediately learned this Silver Feather Body Technique. Ding, the host has learned the Silver Feather Body Technique. The current proficiency is 10%. Yi Xian still remembers that after learning the Underworld Sword Technique, 30% of the fire can be comparable to the 100% fire of the Sky Wind Sword Technique. If this Silver Feather Body Technique is practiced to 60%, he will deal with these 2 people. I am afraid it will be easy. On the side, Wei Zhentian has finished eating. Ever since he gained the ability to transform and reassemble, Wei Zhentian would eat in all sorts of strange ways. This time, he had transformed into a large cauldron and tossed the ores and heaven-tier artifacts into it, saving him both time and effort. Refine it. There will be more in a while. Yi Xian grinned and stood up. Next, he used the copper corpse in the red refining immortal's cave to practice the Silver Feather Body Technique, and it was easy to reach 30% of the fire.
Then, he went back the way he came and prepared to go to another fork in the road.
Maybe this trip to the Red Refining Immortal's cave, he can break through to the spirit realm? As long as he could reach the spirit realm, he would be able to fly in the air. Needless to say, this feeling was extremely pleasurable. Just now when he came here he was very careful, but this time he ran with all his might. Soon, he entered the second path. Then, they caught up with the second Silver Plume Palace team. This team had the same arrangement as before, one with 95 dragon power and two with 96 dragon power. Yi Xian used the same method to kill all of them. Ding, the host broke through to the power of 88 dragon power. Now, Yi Xian was only 2 dragons away from the power of 90 dragon power. The 6 people who died also gave Yi Xian a lot of holy beast corpses. This kind of thing, Yi Xian cannot be too much. Then he went to the third fork in the road and killed the third team. This time, his strength had increased. One person had reached 98 dragons and 297 dragons. This allowed Yi Xian to successfully break through to the strength of 89 dragons. Even his silver feather movement technique had broken through to 50% mastery. Good luck. It seems that at the second fork in the road, I chose a good place. Yi Xian grinned. This time, he was going back to the second fork in the road. 12 people have died in the Silver Plume Palace, 3 outside and 9 inside. At this time, they still have about 20 people left. With Yi Xian's current strength, even if he faced the leader of the Silver Plume Palace team, he had the ability to kill him. Although he would have to waste a Beast King's rage, it would allow him to break through to the power of 100 dragon power. This was definitely a good deal. At this time, Yi Xian returned to the second fork in the road, then entered the second fork in the road. He hoped that he could meet the leader of the Silver Plume Palace team. He entered the second fork in the road, then randomly chose a road at the third fork. After walking for a while, he saw 3 people.
In the middle of a battle?
Yi Xian's eyes narrowed. Looking from a few thousand meters away, he saw 3 figures moving quickly. In addition, there was a 2-meter-tall iron corpse. He took a closer look and found that all 3 of them had 99 dragon powers. The 2-meter-tall Iron Man looked a little like a Tauren. This should be a barbaric bull demon. It was born with 70 dragon power, and when it reached adulthood, it would reach 90 dragon power. Yi Xian estimated that this barbaric bull demon iron corpse should have more than 100 dragon power. The 2 sides fought to their heart's content. This barbaric bull demon iron corpse was very strong, and its defensive power far surpassed that of the copper corpses. It fought to a draw with the 3 people, and the battle was very intense. Yi Xian hesitated in his heart. With his 89 dragon strength, his speed had already surpassed everyone present. However, he liked to take advantage of others, so he watched quietly. The 3 elders of the Silver Plume Palace team up. Although they fought to a draw with the barbaric bull demon iron corpse, they had the advantage in numbers. If they really wanted to compare, the Silver Plume Palace team had the upper hand, beating the barbaric bull demon iron corpse until it kept retreating. Yi Xian also slowly approached. He was thinking to let the Silver Plume Palace team kill the barbaric bull demon iron corpse first, then ambush them. But who knew that the situation would suddenly take a turn for the better? One of them accidentally stepped on a mechanism, and another iron corpse suddenly fell from the ceiling. This iron corpse was also a barbaric bull demon. This was troublesome. 2 barbaric bull demons working together to deal with the 399 dragon demon experts of the Silver Plume Palace was not a problem. Not good, retreat. Seeing this, one of them immediately shouted, and then turned to leave. If they did not leave, they would definitely be dead. However, what they did not know was that on their escape route, there was another killing god. Bang! 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 The 2 barbaric bull demons' large feet stepped on the floor, creating loud rumbling sounds. Every loud sound was able to shake the hearts of the 3 people in front. They had suppressed the barbaric bull demon with great difficulty. If they were given a little more time, they would be able to kill it. But who knew that at this crucial moment, another barbaric bull demon would suddenly jump out. This was really terrible. Luckily, their speed was faster than the barbaric bull demon, so escaping this dangerous situation was not a problem. However, when they ran halfway, they found a figure standing in the middle of the passage in front of them, blocking their escape route. Wearing a strange mask. Who is this person? The 3 people had this question in their hearts at the same time. Brat, who are you? Chapter 402. Inner hall. The person who blocked the other party's path was naturally Yi Xian, who was wearing the Grim Reaper's primary school student mask. He looked at the three of them charging towards him and took out his Bahuang sword. He cupped his fists and said, "Since you asked so sincerely, I'll be merciful and tell you. My surname is Yi and my name is Liangchen. I, Yi Liangchen, will be the one to take your heads." Yi Liangchen? The three of them looked at each other and realized that they had never heard of this name before. At this moment, Yi Xian made his move. His figure flashed out like a ghost with a long silver belt behind him. It was very beautiful. When the three of them saw it, they were in disbelief. They exclaimed, "Silver feather movement technique?" This shocked them. The silver feather movement technique was the most powerful martial art of the Silver Feather Palace. Only people of their level were qualified to learn it. However, how could Yi Xian know it too? However, this was not the time to be calculative because Yi Xian's speed was much faster than theirs. Split up and go. The three of them widened their eyes and split up under their leader's command. However, they forgot that there were two barbaric bull demons behind them. After they split up, the two barbaric bull demons also split up and chased after one of them. As for the third person, he naturally became Yi Xian's target. Underworld swordsmanship. Sword descends to the underworld. Dang! Yi Xian released his killing move. His opponent only managed to dodge once. The second time, his head was chopped off by Yi Xian. Ding! The host has broken through to 90 dragon power. A notification rang in Yi Xian's mind when he took the interspatial ring from his opponent. With 90 dragon strength, if he added the bonus to his movement speed, his speed would be comparable to an expert with 110 dragon strength. After killing this person, Yi Xian dashed towards the other two. What? The two of them turned their heads to take a glance. When they saw the corpse and Yi Xian, who was running towards them, they were instantly scared half to death. There was a pursuer in front and a fierce tiger behind. The two barbaric bull demons were one thing, as they could still escape, but Yi Xian was actually able to kill an expert with close to 100 dragon force points. He was definitely more dangerous than the barbaric bull demon Iron Corpse. However, their speed was too slow compared to Yi Xian's. Hiss! Hiss! The two of them were killed one after another. At the same time, they helped Yi Xian break through to the power of 91 dragons. Now it was time for Yi Xian to fight the two barbaric ox devils. Roar! The two barbaric ox demon Iron Corpses stared at Yi Xian with their bell-like eyes. Although they are dead, the Red Liao Lord uses a special method to keep them conscious, so they are not stupid. They can see that Yi Xian is much stronger than the three of them. Speed. You can't catch up to me, so you can only be my live targets. Yi Xian didn't think too much about it and brought out his Dragon Slayer sword. Underworld sword technique. Sword descends to the underworld. Yi Xian immediately used his strongest attack. With the Beast King bloodline, Yi Xian has a 10% increase in attack damage against beasts. Moreover, after breaking through to the power of 91 dragons, Yi Xian's Bahuang sword has probably reached the level of a middle-grade heaven artifact. Middle-grade heaven artifact, middle-grade heaven level martial arts, Beast King bloodline, all kinds of factors allowed Yi Xian to kill the 200 dragon strength Iron Corpses like cutting tofu. In less than 5 seconds, they fell one by one. One was beheaded by Yi Xian, and the other was split in half by Yi Xian. 2 corpses with the power of 100 dragons. Not bad. Yi Xian nodded in satisfaction. In his plan, the 4 major forces would become his stepping stones to help him break through to the spirit realm. Then, he would subdue the golden armored corpse king in one fell swoop. Of course, this is just a fantasy. The reality is often cruel. After putting away the 2 barbaric ox demon corpses, he rushed out again. He still went to find trouble with the Silver Feather Palace experts. However, at the same time, in the depths of the Red Refining Cave, it was a large hall, but it was empty. Other than the pillars around it, there was nothing else. In the center of the hall, there is a huge golden coffin, and on the side of the golden coffin, there are 2 silver statues of 1 person tall. These 2 silver statues are lifelike. One is holding a crescent blade, the other is holding a 2-meter-long sword, mighty and extraordinary. At this time, the big sword statue suddenly opened its eyes. Someone entered the inner hall. This silver statue actually spoke. Suddenly, another statue also opened its eyes and said, "I hope someone can come in alive. I just hope those people don't die. When the time comes, how can we and Master be resurrected?" After Yi Xian broke through to the 91 dragons, he went to find the trouble with the Silver Feather Palace experts. His luck is really good. These Silver Feather Palace experts are almost all above 90 dragons and under 100 dragons, so there is no threat to Yi Xian. Yi Xian cleaned up a few teams of Silver Feather Palace experts and successfully broke through to the power of 94 dragons. At this time, he estimated that there were only 5 people left in the Silver Feather Palace.
At the same time, he was also deeply surprised, because the 5 people of the Silver Feather Palace who exceeded the power of 100 dragons were altogether 500 dragons of strength and 115 dragons of strength expert. This meant that they were moving very quickly. Yi Xian walked into the last passage and chased. What about 115 dragons? Yi Xian, if the Beast King is violent, these people will fall. Yi Xian ran in the last passage. At this time, it has been 1 or 2 hours since he entered the Red Refining Cave. He soon passed through the area of the Copper Corpse and entered the Iron Corpse area. The Copper Corpse of the Red Refining Cave is in the realm of 90 dragons to 100 dragons, and the Iron Corpse is between 100 dragons and 110 dragons. However, with his strength, killing these Iron Corpses is easy. Unknowingly, his Beast King is violent, which has 3 opportunities to use it, which makes his confidence increase. After that, Yi Xian simply swallowed those Iron Corpses and successfully broke through to the power of 95 dragons. After entering the Iron Corpse area, he ran for half an hour. This Red Refining Cave is really big, which makes Yi Xian secretly speechless. So many celestial blue stones, if they are swallowed by him, do not know what realm can be broken through? After half an hour, he finally encountered something different. A stone tablet. Red Refining Inner Hall?
Yi Xian frowned, and after this stone tablet, there was another door. However, it was closed. What's the matter, this Silver Feather Palace people? Will they close the door when they enter? Yi Xian walked over with some surprise, only to find that the door was shaking, and a sound fell into his ears. Is there a battle inside? Chapter 403. Chapter 403. Chapter 403 Breakthrough Probability. This time, Yi Xian is even more surprised, because the 5 people in the Silver Feather Palace, 1 is 115 dragons, and 4 people are between 110 dragons. This kind of realm is enough to kill any Iron Corpse. What is it fighting with them? Yi Xian curiously approached and put his ear on the door. Boom! Coincidentally, it seems that a heavy object hit the door, and the huge tremor almost deafened his ears. It's so intense. Shouldn't it be the 2 silver corpses in those people? Yi Xian thought about it. Just now, he caught a person and asked about the news of the Red Refining Immortals Cave, and he also learned about the Silver Corpse. He estimated that the Silver Corpse of the Red Refining Immortals Cave should be between 110 dragons and 120 dragons. However, according to the strength of the 5 people in the Silver Feather Palace, this Silver Corpse should be more than 115 dragons. Is it to go in now, or wait for them to finish? Yi Xian thought about it in his heart, and finally he decided to go in now, because he couldn't wait and wanted to break through to 100 dragons. He bit his teeth, raised his spirit, and then pushed open the door. The door was open to the inside, and Yi Xian pushed it a little, cracked a gap, and then he went in. He squinted his eyes and saw that there were indeed 4 figures fighting with a 3-meter-tall silver corpse with chains. How come there are 4 people? Yi Xian was shocked and looked around. Sure enough, he found a human body in a corner. The most important thing is that the Qiankuan ring is still there. Yi Xian's eyes widened and immediately rushed over. At the same time, the 4 people who were fighting with the Iron Chain Silver Corpse were shocked, and they saw a mysterious person wearing a mask. Where did this person come from? The 4 people fought and distracted their attention on Yi Xian. They saw that Yi Xian swept to the side of the corpse and then took off his Qiankuan ring. Boy, stop! The palace master of the Silver Feather Palace shouted. Yi Xian was too lazy to pay attention to him. He directly swallowed the items in the interspatial ring. Ding! Host has broken through to 97 dragon power. An expert was an expert after all. He had a lot of wealth, and it was enough for Yi Xian to increase his cultivation by 2 dragons. 97 dragons. Yi Xian only needed 3 more dragon strength before he could reach 100 dragon strength. At that time,
He should be able to know the conditions to break through to the spirit realm. After breaking through, Yi Xian could not help but smile. He then turned to look at the 4 people who were struggling bitterly. "Brat, who are you?" The Silver Plume Palace Lord asked with a frown. "I am Yi Liangchen," Yi Xian said as he walked slowly. "Yi Liangchen?" The 4 of them looked at each other. They had never heard of this person before. "I don't care where you came from. Quickly help us kill this iron chain silver corpse," shouted the Silver Plume Palace Master. He believed that since Yi Xian was able to come here, he must be extremely strong. With one more person, they would have a higher chance of winning. Yi Xian looked at them and realized that the 4 of them were actually at a disadvantage. The iron chain silver corpse was holding a large chain made of unknown material. Its attacks were fierce, and its defense was extremely strong. It was estimated to have reached 120 dragons' strength. It was no wonder that the 4 of them were forced to flee. Facing such a strong enemy, they were probably very nervous. "Why should I help you?" Yi Xian said with narrowed eyes. In his plan, the people of Silver Plume Palace were his stepping stones. Ask him to help? What kind of joke is this? You took something from my Silver Plume Palace. As long as you help, the items in the interspatial ring will belong to you. The Silver Plume Palace Lord offered a price. Hee hee. Yi Xian grinned and said, "I have already obtained the items. Why should I agree?" "Humph, if you don't kill this iron chain silver corpse, don't even think about leaving this place. This door can only be opened from the outside," shouted the Silver Plume Palace Lord. "Oh!" Yi Xian raised his eyebrows, but he was not worried. This iron chain silver corpse was not much of a threat to him. He calculated in his heart and said, "No, I don't plan to cooperate with you. Instead, I want to kill you first." "What?" The 4 of them were stunned when they heard that. At this moment, the iron chain silver corpse swung the chain in its hand and hit one of them. In an instant, that person was sent flying. Seeing that, Yi Xian's eyes lit up. Someone was here to give him benefits. He shot forward like an arrow. Underworld sword technique. Rip! This person was already half dead, and now he was hit by Yi Xian. How could he not die? Yi Xian obtained another interspatial ring. Ding! The host has broken through to 98 dragon strength. At this moment, he was only 2 dragon strength away from 100 dragon strength. Bastard! The palace master of Enu Palace was furious when he saw that. He rushed toward Yi Xian. At the same time, Yi Xian could not hold it in anymore. "I'll let you all see my true strength," Yi Xian's Beast King rage. Yi Xian roared towards the sky, and the 17 flying dragons suddenly increased in number. 128 dragons. What? When the palace master of Enu Palace saw those flying dragons, his heart turned cold. 98 dragons, explosively increasing to 128 dragons. He calculated in his heart. That was an increase of 30% of his strength. Was he still human? Just as he was calculating, Yi Xian had already flashed in front of him and swung his sword. Underworld sword technique. Sword descends to the underworld. A slash with the aura of death cut across the palace master of Enu Palace's neck. Blood splattered. Yi Xian did not care where the palace master's head flew to. What he cared about was the interspatial ring. He scooped up the interspatial ring and took it off. Ding! The host has broken through to 100 dragon strength. The long-awaited notification sound finally rang out. What stunned Yi Xian was that he still could not break through to the spirit realm. However, this was within his expectations. He now understood that 100 dragon strength only met the requirements to break through to the spirit realm. Otherwise, how could there be so many spirit realm experts with more than 100 dragon strength? Ding! The host's current chance of breaking through is 10%. Do you want to try breaking through? Hint: if the breakthrough fails, the host will explode and die. What? When Yi Xian heard the notification sound, he was almost scared to death. Chance of breaking through, 10%? If the breakthrough failed, he would explode and die? Yi Xian carefully sensed it again. Indeed, as his realm increased, the chance of breaking through would increase continuously. Every time he increased 1 dragon's strength, the chance of breaking through would increase by 1%. With 100 dragon strength, the chance of breaking through was 10%. This meant that if it was 190 dragon strength,
the chance of breaking through would be 100%. At the same time, there were a few things that could help him break through and increase the chance of breaking through. Let's not talk about this for now. Let's get rid of the irrelevant people first. Yi Xian temporarily put this matter aside and rushed out again. Chapter 404. Entering the Inner Palace. Not good. The remaining two people's faces darkened. However, their speed was no match for Yi Xian, who had over 130 dragon power, and they were killed in an instant. Ding! The host has broken through to 101 dragon power. When the notification sounded, the probability of a breakthrough in Yi Xian's mind increased by 1%, reaching 11%. Now, only Yi Xian and the silver zombie were left in the palace. Whoosh! The silver zombie waved its chains and attacked Yi Xian. Humph! How dare you show off in front of me when you're so slow? Yi Xian snorted and dodged it easily, then swept to the front of the silver zombie. Underworld swordsmanship. Sword descends to the underworld. He swung his sword and slashed at the silver zombie's arm, but it did not cut off the zombie's arm. Its defense is really amazing. Yi Xian's eyes flashed, and he swung his sword again. Plop! The silver zombie's huge arm was chopped off and fell to the ground. In the next moment, Yi Xian focused on its neck. Underworld swordsmanship. Sword descends to the underworld. After 2 strokes of sword descends to the underworld, the silver zombie's head fell off with a loud bang. Although it was strong, it was as fragile as tofu in the hands of Yi Xian, who was in the Beast King frenzy. Yi Xian put away the corpse. In the next moment, there was a loud rumbling sound all around. At this moment, Yi Xian realized that there were doors everywhere. There were exactly 10 of them, 9 small ones, and 1 big one. After the death of the silver chain corpse, all the doors were opened. Could it be that every fork leads to here, and that big door is the way out? Yi Xian guessed in his heart. He looked around and did not find anything else. It seemed that this was the way out. However, the people from the Silver Plume Palace had almost died in his hands. He wondered how many people from the other 3 forces were left. It seems that the news of these people is also wrong. The chained silver corpse is just a kind of holy beast. It is not the 2 generals of the Red Liao Lord. So, there should be 2 more powerful silver corpse. After pausing for a moment, Yi Xian entered the largest door. The degree of danger that followed would most likely be extremely high, because they might encounter the powers of 3 parties, as well as the golden armored corpse king and the 2 powerful silver corpses. Yi Xian ran madly along this large passage. Previously, he had been very careful, but he discovered that there were no iron corpses along the way. After running for about 10 minutes, he saw another glittering golden door with a stone tablet beside it. Red Refining Main Hall. It seemed that they had arrived at their destination. Yi Xian carefully walked over and paused for a moment. He heard some people discussing inside. Hee, is it being distributed? Yi Xian grinned and pushed the door open. With his strength, it wouldn't be a problem for him to fight against everyone from the 3 great powers alone. Boom! The door was pushed open and Yi Xian walked in. The loud noise immediately attracted the attention of everyone in the main hall. The Silver Plume Palace that Yi Xian had destroyed was actually the weakest of the 4 great powers. At this moment, there were already dozens of people in the main hall, which made Yi Xian very surprised. There are almost no casualties. Could it be that they didn't split up but directly rushed in as a group? Yi Xian was shocked. The leaders of the 3 great powers turned to look at Yi Xian. The Wild Dragon Tower's Tower Master said in shock. Someone from the Silver Plume Palace? Obviously, these words were directed at Yi Xian. Yi Xian was still wearing the Death God primary school student mask. His attire was extremely strange. After hearing the words of the Wild Dragon Tower, he also shook his head and said, "No, I am not from the Silver Plume Palace." Hearing this, the 3 great powers present were all shocked. If he wasn't from the Silver Plume Palace, then how did he enter? You killed 12 of them? The Wild Dragon Tower's Tower Master reacted. That's right. Yi Xian smiled and nodded. He looked around and found the 2 silver-armored statues and the golden coffin in the main hall. It seemed that the 2 silver-armored statues were the last 2 silver corpses. The one lying in the coffin was probably the golden armored corpse king. As for the corpse controlling technique, it shouldn't have been discovered yet. However, at this time, Elder Yen from the Heaven Hatred Sword sect frowned. He felt that Yi Xian's voice was somewhat familiar.
Yi Xian seemed to have read his mind and said with a smile, "Old man, don't you recognize me?
That day outside the netherworld abyss, you hit me with a palm."
When these words were said, Elder Yan's eyes immediately widened as he exclaimed, "It's you?"
How is this possible? He recognized Yi Xian and was very surprised. This was because Yi Xian had been hit by his 3 days muscle-breaking hand. He would definitely die within 3 days. However, Yi Xian was standing here alive. You can't kill me with that trick of yours. Oh right, your Heaven Hatred Sword Sex elite team all died at my hands. Are you here for revenge?
Yi Xian said with a smile that was not a smile, although the other party couldn't see his expression.
It's you. Before Elder Yan could speak, someone walked out of the team angrily. He was Yu Kang's master in the Heaven Hatred Sword Sect, with 102 dragon power.
That's right, it's me.
Yi Xian nodded. I'm going to kill you. This person shouted and rushed towards Yi Xian. Yi Xian looked at his flustered and exasperated appearance and helplessly shook his head. He had 101 dragon power, and the other party was only 1 dragon power higher than him.
Rip!
A series of crisp sounds rang out. Yu Kang's master's body fell to the ground. His head flew not far away, and blood splattered everywhere. His interspatial ring fell into Yi Xian's hands. This scene entered the eyes of the crowd, causing them to be truly stunned. He was killed in an instant?
Elder Yan was even more shocked. He said in horror, "How is this possible?
You only had 70 dragon power that day." 70 dragon power. That's right. Yi Xian only had 70 dragon power when he broke into the netherworld abyss. In just a few days, he had increased his dragon power by 30 dragon power. How could Elder Yan not be shocked? Not only that, but the others present were also so shocked that they couldn't speak. Elder Yan, is what you said true?
The sect leader of the Heaven Hatred Sword Sect asked in a low voice.
Yes, sect leader. I used the 3 days muscle-breaking hand to send him into the netherworld abyss. Because of the roar of a flying centipede, I didn't go in. At that time, he only had 70 dragon power. He used a martial art to increase his realm and forcibly increased it to almost 100 dragon power. At the same time, he also had the same speed as me.
Elder Yan's eyes suddenly lit up.
He said, yes, he should be using that martial art to increase his realm now. That day, Yi Xian used the Devil Ape transformation and Beast King's rampage to increase his dragon power to almost 100 dragon power. With the addition of his speed, he managed to escape. Yi Xian only had 101 dragon power. It was no wonder that Elder Yan mistakenly thought that he had used Beast King's rampage. Chapter 405. Corpse Controlling Secret Record? Yes. Immediately, 3 experts walked out. The disciples of these 3 people had all died under Yi Xian's hands, so they wanted nothing more than to skin Yi Xian and scrape his bones. However, they only had 105 dragon strength, so they couldn't escape Yi Xian's butcher's knife. 3 heads flew up at the same time, then fell to the ground. 3 experts with 105 dragon strength were killed in an instant again. This kid is incredible. Let me do it. Elder Yan couldn't bear to watch any longer. Now that the 3 powers were gathered here, the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect had lost 4 people before they even started fighting. If more people died, it would be too disadvantageous. Seeing Elder Yan make a move, the others were relieved. Elder Yan was the 2nd strongest expert in the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect. 120 dragon strength was already considered top-notch in this place. However, Yi Xian today was no longer the kid with 70 dragon strength who could be bullied by others. He had truly reached the power of 100 dragons. With 101 dragon strength and the addition of agility, his speed had exceeded 120 dragon strength. In addition, the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect didn't have any mid-grade movement techniques, so Yi Xian's speed was much faster than Elder Yan's. Even if he didn't use Beast King's rampage, he could still fight. At this time, Yi Xian didn't use Beast King's rampage because he suddenly had a bad feeling. These people might be useful to him. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of metal clashing rang out in the main hall. Everyone's eyes widened in disbelief. With Elder Yan's strength, he couldn't kill Yi Xian in an instant. Where did this brat come from? This was the same thought in everyone's mind. At the same time they had another question. Why haven't the people of Silver Plume Palace arrived yet? Only when they thought of this question did they remember that Yi Xian had walked out of the main door of Silver Plume Palace. Could it be that Silver Plume Palace had been completely wiped out? All of a sudden, these people had a bad premonition in their hearts. Although the Silver Plume Palace was at the bottom of the four great powers, the palace master was still an expert with 115 dragons. Furthermore, he possessed a middle-grade movement technique. Even if one of the three major forces wanted to destroy the Silver Plume Palace, it would not be an easy task. However, until now, not a single person from the Silver Plume Palace had appeared. It was no wonder that they thought of destruction.
Everyone from the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect watched the battle between Yi Xian and the second most powerful expert of the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect, Elder Yen. Sect leader, should we? An elder approached the sect leader of the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect and whispered.
The sect leader of the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect understood what he meant and replied, "You guys stay here and watch. It has been a while and the corpse-controlling mystic record should appear soon. As for that brat, I'll deal with him."
Yes. The sect leader of the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect was 123 dragons expert. He was very powerful and had the highest cultivation realm among the four great powers.
Seeing that Elder Yen could not do anything to Yi Xian, he wanted to launch a sneak attack.
Although it was a little disgraceful, he and Elder Yen were the sect leader of the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect and the second most powerful expert respectively.
If the news of the two joining forces to deal with one person spread, it would be a disgrace. However, if Yi Xian was not eliminated, Elder Yen would be entangled. When the corpse-controlling mystic record appeared, the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect would have one less powerful expert. Moreover, the elite team of the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect had been killed by Yi Xian, including his disciple. How could he not take revenge for this? However, at this moment, rumble! Suddenly, a loud sound reverberated in the main hall. Everyone held their breaths in concentration. Soon after, the atmosphere exploded. Quick! The corpse-controlling mystic record has appeared. Find it quickly! Find it quickly! With the corpse-controlling mystic record, we can control the two silver corpses. We must find it before they do. The three major forces were in an uproar. Yi Xian might not know about the corpse-controlling mystic record, but the three of them had been here for a long time. Otherwise, why would the three major forces wait peacefully in the same place? The Qilian Overlord had recorded his voice before he died, saying that the corpse-controlling mystic record was in the main hall and would appear when the time was right. Although the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect was the one who found the remains, and both the Wild Dragon House and the Sun Moon Sect were under their control, they did not care at all. But at this time, they didn't care so much.
Whoever found the corpse-controlling secret record first and learned how to control these two powerful silver corpses first would be able to eliminate the other two major powers.
Among them, there were huge benefits involved.
If three of the four major sects were to fall here, then there would only be one major sect left in the Redwood territory in the future.
Who did not want to be big? Therefore, the three major forces were in a frenzy. They ran wildly in the main hall, trying to find the corpse-controlling mystic record. At this moment, everyone in the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect dispersed. The sect leader of the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect hesitated for a moment, but still rushed out. He felt that he should kill Yi Xian first, then go find the corpse-controlling mystic record. However, right after he took 2 steps forward, someone shouted loudly, "Stop it!" Found it, the corpse-controlling mystic record. Found the corpse-controlling mystic record.
A person found a secret book in a secret compartment in the corner, but his voice had just sounded when he was ambushed.
What found it?
Everyone widened their eyes and looked in the direction of the voice.
Their eyes turned red. Kill. In an instant, a chaotic battle broke out in the main hall. The 3 major forces all participated in the battle, just to get the corpse-controlling mystic record. Now, the sect leader of the Heavenly Hatred Sword Sect did not have time to care about Yi Xian. He turned around and rushed to the corpse-controlling mystic record. Meanwhile, Elder Yen, who was fighting with Yi Xian, frowned. He thought to himself, Yi Xian really came at the wrong time. Why did he appear just before the corpse-controlling mystic record was about to appear? From the start of the battle until now, he and Yi Xian had already exchanged more than 100 moves. However, Yi Xian's movement technique was much better than his, so he could not do anything to Yi Xian. However, Yi Xian had the ability to kill him in a second, but he had not used it yet. The corpse-controlling mystic record. Huh? So the 3 major forces were waiting for this, But why do I feel like something is wrong? Yi Xian thought to himself as he fought. His heart was beating wildly, as if something big was about to happen. Hence, he felt that it was better to not make a move first. If he used Beast King Rampage, the three major forces would probably all die in his hands. However, the bad feeling in his heart made him not want to kill these people for the time being. These people were just cannon fodder in his eyes. Anyway, the corpse-controlling mystic record did not have legs and could not run away on its own. He continued to fight with Elder Yen and observed the situation. Chapter 406. Blood Corpse. Right at this moment, the corpse-controlling secret record with the forbidden retraction array fell into the hands of an expert. This expert was the sect leader of the Sun Moon sect, who possessed the strength of 121 dragons. Seeing this, the sect leader of the Heavenly Hatred Sword sect and the leader of the Wild Dragon Manor exchanged glances. Previously, when Elder Yen went to discuss with the leader of the Wild Dragon Manor, they had privately reached an agreement to cooperate. Coincidentally, none of the people from the Silver Plume Palace were here. This allowed them to eliminate the Sun Moon sect first and then divide the two silver corpses. This was the method that would not hurt their relationship. The sect leader of the Sun Moon sect also felt the murderous gazes of the two. He quickly turned around and ran. When he reached the nearest door, he was shocked to find that the door could not be opened. It's over. The sect leader of the Sun Moon sect turned pale. Go to hell. The leader of the Wild Dragon Manor and the sect leader of the Heavenly Hatred Sword sect had already arrived and attacked him. I don't want this. Take it. The sect leader of the Sun Moon sect reacted quickly and threw the corpse-controlling secret record back. However, the two experts turned a blind eye to it. They passed by the corpse-controlling secret record and attacked the sect leader of the Sun Moon sect. Damn it! The sect leader of the Sun Moon sect cursed. Right now, the only way out was to fight to the death. The leader of the Wild Dragon Manor was an expert with 120 dragons. The sect leader of the Heavenly Hatred Sword sect was 123 dragons, and the sect leader of the Sun Moon sect was only 121 dragons. Facing the joint attack of the two experts, he was instantly defeated. In less than 3 seconds, he was defeated. Die! The sect leader of the Heavenly Hatred Sword sect swung his sword and a head flew. It was the sect leader of the Sun Moon sect. Miserable. It could only be described with the word miserable. The Wild Dragon Manor and the Heavenly Hatred Sword sect had already reached an agreement. After seeing the actions of the two experts, the rest of the people also carried out a bloodbath plan on the Sun Moon sect. Without a leader, the Sun Moon sect was completely annihilated in less than half a minute with the addition of the two experts. At this moment, the main hall was filled with blood and headless corpses. It was a horrifying sight. There were only two forces left in the main hall. No, there was still someone who did not belong to the two forces. Yi Xian. This brat is actually still holding on? I'll deal with him. The eyes of the sect leader of the Heavenly Hatred Sword sect flashed as he rushed towards Yi Xian. However, what he didn't know was that the blood of the many corpses on the ground was all flowing into the golden coffin in the center of the hall. No, it couldn't be said to be flowing. It was being sucked in by the golden coffin. Rumble! The sect leader of the Heaven Hatred Sword sect paused again. He looked around and discovered this strange phenomenon. What's going on? Why is the blood flowing to the two silver corpse statues and the golden coffin? Strange, this is too strange. Even the blood on my wound seems to be about to gush out. Not good, this must be a trap. Everyone be careful. The people of the two major forces carefully retreated. The sect leader of the Heavenly Hatred Sword sect was also attracted by the commotion and hurriedly retreated. There was so much blood on the ground that was sucked into the golden coffin, dyeing that area red. At the same time, the feet of the two silver corpse statues were also soaked with thick blood. Look, the blood is crawling onto the silver corpse statue. Someone shouted. Everyone's eyes condensed and found that it was true. In the blink of an eye, the two silver corpse statues were covered with blood and turned into two bloody corpses. Kacha! Suddenly, a crisp sound spread, and a bloody corpse statue cracked. Kacha! The other blood corpse statue also began. Immediately afterward, everyone saw that the two bloody corpse statues began to tremble and open their eyes. They are alive! They are alive! Someone exclaimed. Everyone was shocked. Just now, the Qilian Lord said that the two silver corpse statues had been sealed and could not move. At the same time, they were also laid out a formation, which was extremely hard. The sect leader of the Heaven Hatred Sword sect had once attacked and could not destroy it. But now it seems that the layer of stone outside them seems to be the formation that seals them. Although the three major forces came in, they had already killed a chained silver corpse, but at this time, the two silver corpse statues have become two bloody corpses. This strength was definitely much stronger than that of the silver chain corpse. Be careful. It's a depressing feeling. Quick, look at the corpse control secret record. I feel the murderous intent. Be careful. A group of experts looked at the two bloody corpses and shook off the stones on their bodies. After so many years, I finally saw the light again. The bloody corpse statue holding the big sword suddenly spoke. This sentence, but let everyone present tremble for a moment. Your mother, have been dead for so many years, can you still speak? You know, the Chiel Yen Lord is the 6th Redwood Lord, and it has been 100 years since he disappeared. No, the important thing is that this scarlet blood corpse can actually speak. Is this a living person or 4 people? Don't be surprised. The master refined us into a silver corpse when we were still alive. The bloody corpse holding the crescent blade grinned, revealing scarlet teeth. When they were alive, they were refined into a silver corpse. Hearing this, everyone was shuddering. This Chiel Yen Horde Lord is actually so deranged? Take the corpses of people, the corpses of holy beasts to refine, and even use the living to refine, this is too cruel. Haha, it's all thanks to you. Without the blood of you experts, we wouldn't have been able to become bloody corpses. Yes, we have to thank you. The two bloody corpses said with a smile. The sect master of the Heaven-Hating Sword sect and the house master of the Wild Dragon House looked at each other, and the former immediately asked, "So, all of this is a conspiracy, and this corpse control secret record is also fake?" Of course, this is the arrangement of the dying master. He is the only one who knows how to control the corpse. This corpse control secret record is fake. The big sword blood corpse said. These words made it difficult for everyone present to accept. It was not easy for them to come here, for the corpse control secret record and the corpses. Now that they know that these are fake, it is inevitable that they will be disappointed. Of course, the people of the Sun Moon sect are even more miserable. For a fake thing, they were jointly exterminated by the two forces. Master, the master you are talking about, is it the Chiel Yen Lord? The house master of the Wild Dragon House asked in horror. That's right, and his corpse is lying in this golden coffin. The big sword blood corpse nodded. Sure enough. Everyone present is not a fool. After seeing the two bloody corpses resurrected, they immediately guessed that the golden armored corpse king should be the Chiel Yen Lord himself. So, he also wants to be resurrected? Chapter 407. Chapter 407 Chapter 407 Submit? Hearing this, the great blade blood corpse nodded and said, Yes, Master was seriously injured back then, and his lifespan was almost up. Therefore, he sealed us here, set up this trap, and waited for his resurrection. The great blade blood corpse continued. Master was an expert of the 2nd level of Imperial Chi at his peak. The condition for his resurrection is your blood. Although it can't restore him to his peak, it's enough to revive him. Gulp. When they heard these words, everyone present swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Blood. Resurrection required blood. Although the two blood corpses did not say it clearly, everyone present knew that the two blood corpses would kill all of them to ensure the resurrection of the golden armored corpse king. Everyone could not help but take a few steps back and look at them covetously. They still did not know the realm of the two blood corpses. At this time, the great blade blood corpse suddenly looked at the Wild Dragon Manor Master and the sect leader of the Heavenly Hate Sword sect, and said, The two of you are about the same level as us when we were alive. Now, I will give you a chance to kill the others and then submit to my master. This way, Master can also refine you into blood corpses, and you will have a long life. What? The Wild Dragon Manor Master and the sect leader of the Heavenly Hate Sword sect looked at each other, as if they had heard wrongly. Let them submit to the golden armored corpse king? This was not the point. The point was that if they submitted, they would be refined into something like these two blood corpses, neither human nor ghost. How could this be tolerated? Ah, sect leader. The elders immediately cried out in alarm. If these two experts joined forces, they would be able to kill all of them, not to mention the two blood corpses with unknown strength. The Wild Dragon Manor Master and the sect leader of the Heavenly Hate Sword sect looked at each other again. The latter shouted coldly, Impossible! What kind of joke was this? How was it possible for them to submit and kill their own sect's elders? Are you refusing? The great blade blood corpse glared at him. If you want us to submit, then we'll have to see if you have the ability. The sect leader of the Heavenly Hate Sword sect's eyes flashed. Hee, the great blade blood corpse grinned and said, "All right, if that's the case, then watch carefully." Just as he finished speaking, a few dragons suddenly flew up around him. 1, 2, 3, 15, 16. When the 16 wyverns rose up, everyone was shocked. These were not 16 small wyverns, but 16 large wyverns. This great saber blood corpse actually had a strength of 160 dragons. They were about to faint. He didn't know if they were alive or dead, but they could still use true chi. Most importantly, they had 160 dragon powers. What the F***ck? How could he still fight? Everyone was in despair. 160 dragon power was enough to slaughter them. The sect master of the Heavenly Hatred Sword sect and the house master of the Wild Dragon Manor exchanged glances again. Their hearts were already shaken. They were only around 120 dragons, so how could they fight against 160 blood corpses? Moreover, there were 2 blood corpses. Could it be that I'm going to die here today? The sect leader of the Heavenly Hatred Sword sect stood rooted to the ground. He was the sect leader of the Heavenly Hatred Sword sect. He had tens of thousands of disciples under his command and countless experts. But here he was like an ant. As long as the blood corpse wanted to, his head would immediately fall to the ground. At this time, the golden coffin had finished absorbing all the blood. Oh, it's done. I still need some blood. I can give you some time. 10 breaths. If I don't get your answer after 10 breaths, you will become the sacrifice for my master's resurrection, the great saber blood corpse said coldly. 10 breaths, that was 10 breaths of time. It was very short, but for an expert like the sect master of the Heavenly Hatred Sword sect, he could think of many things. The sect master of the Heavenly Hatred Sword sect and the house master of the Wild Dragon Manor hesitated. Sect master, you won't. House master, don't agree to it. At most, we'll just die. Sect master, do you want to become something that is neither human nor ghost? Let's fight to the death. This kind of demon will definitely be punished by the Heavenly Tao. The people behind them were shouting. At the same time, the 2 people who were fighting on the other side had already stopped and retreated to the side. F***ck, 160 dragon powers, and he can even use true chi. Yi Xian couldn't help but swallow his saliva. He suddenly felt that he had made a mistake. If he had used Beast King's rampage to kill these people from the beginning, his strength would have increased a lot. Moreover, if he had done that, the 2 blood corpses might have been resurrected. However, would Yi Xian be afraid of them by then? At this time, Yi Xian was secretly calculating in his mind. With his 101 dragon powers, if he used Beast King's rampage, his speed would soar to more than 130 dragons. Then, if he used agility, his speed would be close to 160 dragons. However, the 2 blood corpses were different from the copper corpses, iron corpses, and silver corpses. They could use true chi, which meant that they could also use martial arts. Yi Xian's face darkened. It seemed that there was only one way for him to go now, and that was to get those interspatial rings and break through. However, this was very dangerous because if they attracted attention, it was very likely that they would die on the way. With a gloomy face, he quietly approached the corner where the corpse of the sect master of the Sun Moon sect was. Elder Yen also lost his will to fight and moved closer to his own team. Now they had a common enemy, and that was the 2 blood corpses. All right, 10 breaths have passed. What do you think? The blood corpse with the big saber asked. The sect master of the Heavenly Hatred Sword sect and the house master of the Wild Dragon House looked at each other again and then shouted, "Kill!" As soon as he said that, he and the house master of the Wild Dragon House attacked the 2 blood corpses. When the dozens of people behind them saw this, they were overjoyed and attacked crazily. Although the gap in their realms was too big, they had the advantage in numbers. This battle was not a complete massacre. However, when the 2 blood corpses moved, they realized that they were wrong. This was indeed a massacre. The few of them were of no use at all. They could not catch the 2 blood corpses' figures at all. Hiss! 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 A series of crisp sounds echoed in the main hall. Some of the people who died had their heads chopped off, some were directly cut in half, and some were cut in half at the waist, waiting for death to come. In any case, they could not escape the attack of the two blood corpses. In the main hall, blood flowed like a river again. At the same time, Yi Xian had also used the Beast King rampage and rushed to the corpse of the sect master of the Sun Moon sect. The sect master of the Sun Moon sect died very miserably. After he died, his blood was sucked dry and he became a dried corpse. Yi Xian did not bother to look at him and directly took off the interspatial ring. Chapter 408. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Fighting the blood corpses alone, ding. The host has broken through to 104 dragon power. 104 dragon power. With the Beast King's rampage, it would be 136 dragon power. Multiplying that by 2, it would be more than 160 dragon power. Yi Xian's current cultivation level was second only to the two blood corpses. Let's fight. Yi Xian gritted his teeth and charged toward the corpses of the sect elders of the Sun Moon sect. What he needed to do now was to collect the interspatial rings and break through. On the other side, the two blood corpses were very fast. They could have used their martial arts to kill these people easily. However, they had been quiet for a long time and had not killed anyone for a long time. Therefore, they used their strength to cut people in half and enjoyed the pleasure of killing. This gave Yi Xian precious time. Ding. The host has broken through to 105 dragon power. Ding. The host has broken through to 106 dragon power. Ding. The host has broken through to 107 dragon power. After Yi Xian collected the interspatial rings of the sect elders of the Sun Moon sect, he also broke through to 107 dragon power. He turned around and saw that the house master of the Wild Dragon House and the sect leader of the Heavenly Hatred Sword sect had been killed. Not only that, but Elder Yen had also fallen. Yi Xian wanted to kill these people personally, but he was killed by the two blood corpses. As long as I get those interspatial rings, I will definitely surpass 110 dragon power. When that time comes, my speed will surpass 170 dragon power. Yi Xian thought to himself as he burst out. Ha ha ha, run, run, run as fast as you can. The blood corpse laughed maniacally. At this moment, he suddenly saw a figure from the corner of his eyes. So fast. The blood corpse was stunned. He did not expect that there would be an expert hiding among these weaklings. Second brother, I'll leave the rest to you. He shouted and rushed toward Yi Xian. Oh no! Yi Xian's face turned gloomy. The blood corpse had 160 dragon power. Yi Xian used the Beast King's rampage, which meant that he had 140 dragon power at most. He only had speed. If he fought head-on, he would be killed instantly. Avoid him. That was Yi Xian's idea, but it was not easy. Boy, I'll give you a chance to surrender. The blood corpse stopped Yi Xian. Surrender. Yi Xian stopped in his tracks and said, Give me all of their universe rings and I'll submit. The great saber blood corpse was stunned. These interspatial rings were nothing to him. Haha. Sure, go get them. This broadsword blood corpse had been silent for 100 years, and its mind was a little slow. It actually allowed Yi Xian to pass by just like that. However, this wasn't his fault. After all, who would have thought that Yi Xian had a devouring system? At this time, the great sword blood corpse had also killed the others. Yi Xian was the only human left in the main hall. Brother, let him pass. The blood corpse shouted. The blood corpse was interested to see what Yi Xian was going to do. They knew that Yi Xian was not just after the interspatial rings. He must be up to something. Two fools. Yi Xian was secretly happy. He thought that it would be difficult to break through, but he did not expect it to be so easy. He collected the interspatial rings at full speed, but he did not devour them directly. Instead, he stored them and planned to give the two blood corpses a surprise later. The total number of people from the three great powers was close to 100. Yi Xian had only collected close to 30 of them, and when he gathered the remaining universe rings together, his entire body trembled. Confidence. That was a sudden surge of confidence. Boy, you've collected everything, haven't you? The blood corpse looked at Yi Xian. Not a single one. Yi Xian answered coldly. I know you don't really want to surrender to my king. Show me what tricks you have. The blood corpse said coldly. Yi Xian was shocked. He did not expect the blood corpse to know that he was pretending to surrender. However, that was no longer important. Beast King Rampage's time has passed. I can't waste any more time. He focused and immediately devoured the items that he had just put into the devouring space. Ding! The host has broken through to 110 dragon power. 3 dragon power. These items were only enough for Yi Xian to break through 3 times. It was too little, but Yi Xian had expected it. 110 dragon power. With Beast King Rampage, he could reach 143 dragon power. With the addition of his agility, his speed had exceeded 170 dragon power. He estimated that his speed should be about the same as the 2 blood corpses. However, he was still 20 dragon power away from them. Moreover, he was fighting alone. Therefore, there was a tough battle ahead. Good boy, you broke through so many dragon power. I underestimated you. But in my eyes, you're still trash. The blood corpse's eyes flickered. He turned around and said, "Second brother, don't interfere." It was obvious that the blood corpse wanted to fight Yi Xian one-on-one. This was exactly what Yi Xian wanted. All right, if it's a one-on-one, I have a better chance of winning. Yi Xian thought to himself. Come on. The blood corpse could not help but attack. A crescent blade slashed through the air. He was using martial arts. Whoosh! Yi Xian unleashed his full speed. He dodged the slash and faced it head-on. Underworld swordsmanship. Sword descends to the underworld. Bloodburst slash. In the blink of an eye, the 2 of them were fighting. A human and a blood corpse. There was a difference of 20 dragon power between them. Under normal circumstances, a difference of 20 dragon power would usually result in instant death. However, Yi Xian did not do that. His speed was even faster than the blood corpses. You're quite capable, kid. If it weren't for the fact that I've been dormant for 100 years and haven't gotten used to it, I would have killed you long ago. The blood corpse said arrogantly. Indeed, at his peak, he only had 130 dragon power. After he was refined into a silver corpse, his realm dropped, but in exchange, he had a long lifespan. Now that he had evolved from a silver corpse to a blood corpse, his strength had increased by 30 dragon power. Therefore, he had not gotten used to it yet. This meant that his strength was lower than 160 dragon power. Still not used to it? Good news. Yi Xian's eyes widened. His opponent had not gotten used to his new realm, which meant that his chances of winning were higher. Clang, clang, clang. After a few rounds of battle, Yi Xian also understood that the crescent blade in the blood corpse's hand was a mid-grade celestial artifact. This was bad news for him. If this continues, I'll lose for sure. Yi Xian thought to himself. He was only qualified to fight the blood corpse because he had used Beast King Rampage. If the duration of Beast King Rampage passed, he would be instantly killed by the blood corpse. Chapter 409. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation Awakening. If he used up his trump card, Beast King Rampage, then Yi Xian would be dead meat. He pondered for a moment and finally decided to use an extreme method. Blood for blood. This was because he found that the broadsword bloody corpse was wearing an interspatial ring on its left hand. The blood corpse could use true chi and martial arts, which meant that it could also use interspatial rings. Let's do this. Yi Xian's eyes shone brightly. He held the Dragon Slayer sword in one hand and slashed at the blood corpse. Haha, you want to trade arms with me? I'll grant you your wish. The blood corpse immediately understood Yi Xian's intention, but it had no intention of dodging. It raised its hand and slashed at Yi Xian's head. Yi Xian suddenly dodged and slashed at the blood corpse's left arm with his crescent blade. At the same time, his Dragon Slayer sword had already cut into the blood corpse's arm. Fortunately, the defense of this large saber blood corpse wasn't very strong, so it was directly slashed down by Yi Xian's sword. Rip! 2 clear and loud sounds rang out as the 2 arms were separated from the main body. The blood corpse laughed arrogantly. It swept out at lightning speed and cut a big hole in Yi Xian's stomach. Originally, Yi Xian would not have been hit. However, his target was the arm, so he had to bear the injury. Yi Xian's left arm and shoulder were cut off. There was a hole in his abdomen. He was in great pain. However, he felt that it was all worth it. Haha, kid, the blood corpse refined by Master has extremely strong recovery ability. In less than 2 seconds, I will be able to grow a new one. The great sword blood corpse laughed maniacally again. Is that so? Yi Xian's lips curled up slightly. His wound was healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. What? Dao and Bloody Corpse were both stunned. They subconsciously glanced at their left arm and realized that their recovery speed was actually slower than Yi Xian's. How could a human have such a recovery speed? However, in the next moment, his expression became extremely gloomy because he saw that the number of Yi Xian's wyverns had changed. Only then did he recall that Yi Xian had a special ability that allowed him to instantly increase his cultivation level. Originally, Yi Xian only had 143 dragons. However, after obtaining the universe ring of the Great Saber Blood Corpse, his entire person was different. Ding! Host has broken through to 115 dragon power. When the system notification rang out in Yi Xian's mind, his 143 draconic force suddenly increased to 150 draconic force. Right now, he had a speed comparable to 180 dragon strength. The expressions of the Big Saber Blood Corpse and the Big Sword Blood Corpse suddenly changed. They had a bad feeling. Big brother, let me help you. The Sword Blood Corpse saw that the situation was not right and immediately rushed forward. Dao Blood Corpse did not object. Instead, he held his crescent blade with one hand and rushed toward Yi Xian. My speed was about the same as yours just now. Even if you get used to it now, your speed won't increase by much. However, my speed has increased by nearly 10 dragon power. Now, do you still dare to fight me? Suddenly, a murderous intent appeared. Without waiting for his left arm to recover, Yi Xian attacked again. After breaking through, his speed had obviously increased compared to the two blood corpses. Although it was only his speed, it was enough to deal with the two blood corpses. Clang, clang, clang. The two blood corpses cooperated well, but they could not keep up with Yi Xian's speed. Even if two more blood corpses joined in, it would be useless. In the third round of the battle, a different sound finally rang out. This sound was not the sound of the two blood corpses' heads being cut off. Instead, it was the sound of the entire main hall shaking. What a strong sense of oppression. Yi Xian suddenly felt a huge pressure from the golden coffin in the center of the main hall. It's the master. The master is going to wake up. Dao Blood Corpse exclaimed. What? This sentence scared Yi Xian half to death. How could he not understand that the master in the mouth of Dao Blood Corpse was the Qi Lian Lord? It's over, and I forgot about it. Until now, Yi Xian remembered this thing. That is, the resurrection needs human blood. However, he had forgotten about this matter. His face suddenly sank to the bottom of the valley. At this time, the main hall did not have any exit. How could he escape? Just when he was shocked, the sound in the main hall suddenly became louder, and then the surrounding doors were directly opened. Not good, the master wakes up. Thousands of corpses kneel. Dao Blood Corpse opened his eyes. This mechanism has been set as early as hundreds of years ago. As long as the Golden Armor General, that is, the Qi Lian Lord is resurrected, then all iron corpses and copper corpses will come to meet. However, to Yi Xian, this was a shocking piece of good news. Go! Yi Xian seemed to have seen hope. He didn't care about the two blood corpses and directly turned around to leave. He used the speed of 180 dragon strength to rush into a large door. Dao Blood Corpse saw this and was ready to catch up, but was stopped by Dao Blood Corpse. Big brother, what are you doing? Dao Blood Corpse was surprised. Dao Blood Corpse replied, Don't chase, the master has just woken up and is extremely weak. We have to stay with him to avoid accidents. After his reminder, the Great Sword Blood Corpse also reacted and nodded. That's right, and that door leads to the Netherworld Abyss. There is a flying centipede of the Second Order Qi controlling realm there. If he breaks in, he will die. Booming! At this time, the golden coffin suddenly opened, and immediately a man in golden armor sat up. This man in golden armor is naturally the Qi Lian Lord of 100 years ago. Congratulations to the master for waking up. Dao Blood Corpse and Dao Blood Corpse kneeled on one knee and said respectfully. At the same time, a large number of iron corpses came in from all directions, all kneeling. The golden armor man stood up from the golden coffin, the pair of bloody eyes blinked, and the corner of his mouth was slightly raised. At the same time, Yi Xian, who rushed into a passage, also killed all the way out. The speed of 180 dragons made him invincible. Any iron corpse in the way was killed by him. If it was in the past,
He would definitely collect the corpses of these iron corpses. But at this time the situation was urgent, and he did not know when the Qilian Lord would catch up. So he ran wildly. This is a road, there is no fork in the road, so he ran all the way down. After a while, his speed was reduced, and the duration of the Beast King's fury passed. But to be on the safe side, he used the Beast King's fury again, and his speed soared again. Chapter 410. Chapter 410. Chapter 410. Back to the Netherworld Abyss. Huff, huff, that scared me to death. But why didn't the two blood corpses and the golden armored corpse king chase after me? Yi Xian panted heavily, very puzzled. Even so, he did not think too much about it. It was already very good to be able to survive. He looked around and found that he had rushed out of a cave. At this time, there was a purple fog. Seeing this, Yi Xian could not help but be startled. Is this the Netherworld Abyss? He murmured. The Netherworld Abyss was the place he had barged into to avoid Elder Yan's pursuit. But now, he had entered again. The Netherworld Abyss is a dangerous place in the Redwood Territory. No one dares to enter. It is said that even the Redwood Territory Lord does not dare to. Yi Xian was helpless. Even the Redwood Territory Lord, who was in the spirit realm, did not dare to enter. He, who was in the spirit realm, was probably doomed. It's impossible to turn back. It seems that I can only find a way out here. Yi Xian glanced behind him, then quickly entered the purple fog. At this time, it was as if he was walking on a single plank bridge. One end of the bridge was a tiger, and the other was a lion. He was in a dilemma. It was said that the Netherworld Abyss was filled with poisonous creatures with over 100 dragon power. In addition to the purple fog, it was the most dangerous place in the Redwood Territory. However, Yi Xian had the blood of the sacred tree of life in his body. He was not afraid of poison, but he was afraid of those stronger sacred beasts, such as the flying centipede of the Royal Air Level 2. After Yi Xian entered the purple fog, he took out his compass. He remembered that when he was chased by Elder Yan, he went all the way north into the Netherworld Abyss. So this time, he needed to go south. Maybe he could return to that place. He held the Bahuang sword in his hand and walked carefully. At this time, he was an expert with 115 dragon power. If he used Beast King Rage, he could reach 150 dragon power. However, if he encountered some powerful sacred beasts and was ambushed when he reacted, it would be a tragedy. So he was very careful. He walked for a while, and suddenly a sound entered his ears. His eyes flashed, and he suddenly turned around. Hiss! The dragon-slaying sword struck something and it fell to the ground. Yi Xian focused his eyes and realized that it was a small green snake as thick as a finger. At this moment, the small snake had been cut in half, but the two halves of its body were still writhing. At that moment, Yi Xian finished it off with another slash. The little green snake died in an instant. However, its nerves still allowed it to bite, and its tail continued to twist. Yi Xian put the corpse into his devouring space. He estimated that this little green snake was about 115 dragon sacred beast, just like him. It would be great if everyone here was at this level. Yi Xian shook his head helplessly. Now, he only had one chance to use Beast King's rampage, and he had to use it carefully. He continued forward. At this time, 2 hours had passed since Yi Xian entered the Netherworld Abyss. In this half an hour, he encountered many sacred beasts, and all of them were poisonous. The most powerful one was a killer bee with 130 dragon sacred beast. Yi Xian did not react in time and was accidentally stung, and he was in pain for an entire hour. The pain he suffered in this hour was more than the pain he suffered in the past 3 days. Fortunately, he had the bloodline of the sacred tree of life, or else he would have continued to feel pain until his nerves collapsed. There were many sacred beasts in the Netherworld Abyss, and Yi Xian also collected some corpses. He saved some corpses to use Beast King's rampage, and then devoured the rest of the corpses. These corpses allowed him to break through from 115 dragon power to 117 dragon power. His self-defense ability also increased. At the same time, it also increased his chances of breaking through to the spirit realm by 2%, reaching 27%. This chance was less than 1 in 3. This chance of breaking through was actually his biggest trump card. If the golden armored corpse king caught up, and he could not defeat it with Beast King's rampage, he would try to break through. Although there was only a 1 in 4 chance, this was the only thing he could do. Fortunately,
Breaking through from the spirit realm to the spirit realm could increase the success rate by consuming treasures. Yi Xian memorized these treasures in his heart.
At this time, he was wondering if the nether grass that could increase the chances of breaking through by 10% was in the netherworld abyss.
If he could obtain it, then his chances of breaking through would reach 37%.
Nether grass, the netherworld abyss, hope is here.
Yi Xian swallowed his saliva.
He was risking his life to find the nether grass.
It would be best if he could find it, but if he could not, it was fine. After all, his main goal was to leave the netherworld abyss. He continued to walk south. After walking for another half an hour, he suddenly stopped.
He did not dare to make a sound, because there seemed to be a huge thing passing by above his head.
Hiss! A hissing sound entered Yi Xian's ears. He had heard this sound before. A flying centipede that was comparable to a level 2 flying centipede. Can't see me, can't see me, can't see me. Yi Xian stood in the same place as he muttered in his heart. A level 2 flying centipede had at least 200 dragon power. At the same time, it was also the ruler of the netherworld abyss. If he was noticed by this thing, Yi Xian would not be able to survive even if he had 10 lives. After sensing that the flying centipede had left, Yi Xian let out a sigh of relief. If something had ambushed him just now, he would have been finished. After such a thing happened, his footsteps quickened. However, 2 minutes after the flying centipede passed by, Yi Xian suddenly felt that something was wrong. He felt that he had been here before. At this time, the formation-breaking master bloodline in his body began to take effect. He realized that there should be a maze formation here. What's going on? Why would there be a maze formation in a damned place like the netherworld abyss? Yi Xian said in surprise. The netherworld abyss was the most dangerous place in the Redwood territory. Even the Redwood territory lord did not dare to enter. However, there was a maze formation in such a dangerous place. What was going on? Could it be that there is some kind of treasure here? Yi Xian guessed in his heart. He was very curious, but also very afraid. Good things were often accompanied by danger. Many heaven and earth treasures were guarded by powerful saint beasts. Therefore, he dismissed the idea and decided to get out of here first. Then, he took out an earth tool that he had once forged and inserted it into the ground. However, this maze formation was very powerful. He walked back in less than a minute. He was very helpless, but he was very calm because there were usually no saint beasts in a maze formation. Chapter 411. Chapter 411 Great Upheaval in Redwood Region now. Yi Xian's bloodline was full. His combat bloodline was the Sword Emperor bloodline, his physique bloodline was the Beast King bloodline, and his support bloodline was the Sacred Tree of Life bloodline. If he wanted to fuse with another top-notch bloodline, he would need the bloodline expansion window. However, he currently did not have the ability to do so. However, what he did not expect the most was that he was trapped in this maze formation. Furthermore, he was trapped for over a month. More than a month later, Yi Xian finally came out of the maze. At the same time, he also left the netherworld abyss. During this month, Yi Xian was on the verge of going crazy. He had lost count of how many times he had gone around in circles. The treasure-hunting deer bloodline in his body boiled up countless times, indicating that there were supreme-grade heavenly materials and earthly treasures around him, but he couldn't find them. Not only that, in the past month or so, the flying centipede had flown over his head at least 50 times. At first, he would remind them to be scared, but later on, he would calmly watch the flying centipede pass by. That was because he felt that the flying centipede was just a decoration. Other than flying around in the sky and crying out for no reason, it didn't notice him at all. Of course, this was under the condition that he didn't jump up or ride Megatron in the sky. This flying centipede was the guardian of the netherworld abyss. At this time, outside the netherworld abyss. Mother ***, I've been trapped here for more than a month. Which idiot set up this maze? Yi Xian couldn't help but curse. He reckoned that there must be something good in that place protected by the maze formation. There might even be nether grass. However, with his current strength, he was still unable to break through that maze formation. Fortunately, he had successfully walked out of the netherworld abyss. At the same time, his realm had also broken through to 120 dragons' power. He had a 30% chance of breaking through to the spirit realm, but he did not dare to try. After leaving the netherworld abyss, Yi Xian quickly left. He did not want to stay in this damned place any longer. His current position was near where he had been chased into the netherworld abyss. Forget it. Let's not think about it anymore. Let's find a place to eat first. Yi Xian did not want to create more trouble for himself and left. There was a city nearby, so he decided to go into the city and eat something first. This city was called Nether City, and it was the closest city to the Nether Abyss. The reason why there were people living in this city was because the Saint Beasts had never left the Nether Abyss after its formation. Otherwise, this city would have been abandoned long ago. After entering Nether City, Yi Xian found a restaurant and ordered some dishes. It was at this moment that he heard another shocking thing. It turned out that during this 1+ month that he was trapped in the Netherworld Abyss, a major event had occurred in the Redwood Territory. The sects in Redwood Territory were massacred by a mysterious army. And this legion is the Corpse Legion of the Lord of Qil Yen. Just the tens of thousands of copper corpses were enough to wipe out all the sects, not to mention the thousands of iron corpses that numbered over 100 dragons. The Qil Yen Lord occupied all the sects in a short month, and then pointed the spear at a city. Redwood City. Redwood City was the main city of the Redwood Territory, and also the place where the Redwood Territory Lord lived. Simply put, the Qil Yen Lord wanted to re-own the Redwood Territory. Although the current Redwood Lord was a spirit realm master, he only had a strength of 140 dragons. In the face of 2 blood corpses of 160 dragons, there was still a lot of pressure. However, what made Yi Xian most surprised was that the Qil Yen Lord and the 2 blood corpses did not seem to have appeared, because the 2 people at the next table never mentioned it. The Qil Yen Lord should have been resurrected, but there may have been an accident. Maybe it was because he was very weak after the resurrection, or he was afraid of attracting the attention of other territory masters. Yi Xian guessed in his heart. From the discussion of the 2 people at the next table, he also knew that now the Corpse Legion had been pressed to the edge of the Redwood City, and in a while, the Redwood City would be massacred. Therefore, the residents of Redwood City had migrated to other places, and even those families had migrated. When Yi Xian heard the news, his heart was also secretly thinking that the Qil Yen Lord's ambition was too big. He wanted to occupy all the sects in the Redwood Territory, and then refine those masters into copper corpses or iron corpses. Yi Xian suddenly became interested. Because now he was not the same as he was a month ago. 120 dragons, and if he used the Beast King's rampage, it would reach 156 dragons. At that time, he could definitely kill the 2 blood corpses. However, the golden armored corpse king that had never appeared made him somewhat afraid. Let's go and inquire about it first. Yi Xian thought about it in his heart and then left. Fortunately, the Corpse Legion did not crush the city, otherwise he would not even have food to eat. After leaving, he went to investigate, to find out what realm the Qil Yen Lord was when he disappeared 100 years ago. Then, he was ready to go to Redwood City to have a look. If the Corpse Legion were all Holy Beast iron corpses, it would be a huge fortune for him. Moreover, if the Corpse Legion attacked Redwood City, there would be a large number of deaths. At that time, Yi Xian could fish in troubled waters, and maybe he could break through to 130 dragons. After inquiring, Yi Xian also understood that when the Qil Yen Lord disappeared, he had already exceeded 140 dragons, but he had not broken through to the spirit realm. Yi Xian estimated that even if the Qil Yen Lord was resurrected, it should be around 170 or 180 dragons. This kind of realm, even he could deal with it now. Therefore, Yi Xian did not hesitate to rush to Redwood City. The corpse army pressured the border, and the surrounding cities of Redwood City had become empty cities. At the same time, the Redwood Lord also invited many experts to resist this corpse army. At this time, Yi Xian had already broken through to 99 dragons in Wei Zhentian, and arrived in the sky around Redwood City. Wei Zhentian was also stuck at 99 dragons. If he wanted to break through to 100 dragons and break through to the spirit realm, he would need something called the Black Jade Essence. Oregon Wei Zhentian's breakthrough was much easier than Yi Xian's. He only needed the Black Jade Essence or to break through after eating it. However, right now, Yi Xian did not have time to help him find it. It is said that the Corpse Legion is divided into 10 groups, and each small army has 1,000 iron corpses and 10,000 copper corpses. Yi Xian rode Wei Zhentian and looked around, and he accidentally found the station of an army. He looked down from thousands of meters away and found that there were humans and holy beasts in the army, and the leaders were several human silver corpses. At this time, Yi Xian also understood why the Qilian Lord wanted to attack Redwood City. Chapter 412. Chapter 412 Attacking Redwood City. Qilian was here to take back what belonged to him. Although this was acceptable, no one would want their lord to be something that was neither human nor ghost. Right at this time, the 10,000 Corpse Legion below suddenly moved. Could it be that they're starting to attack Redwood City? Yi Xian lowered his might. Shocks the world a little. He glanced around but didn't find the 2 blood corpses. In that case, all of you walking corpses will become my experience points. Yi Xian's eyes widened, and he directly fell. Before he landed, he launched a storm-like attack. Plop! A loud sound rang out, and Yi Xian landed in the middle of the corpse army. Only he dared to do this. Yi Xian looked around and found that there were many human iron corpses around. He immediately frowned and showed a look of disgust. Yi Xian was helping them free. The few human silver corpses in the lead also knew that someone had broken into their army, but they didn't care and turned to leave. They thought that Yi Xian would definitely be drowned by the corpse tide. However, they were wrong. They heard the loud sounds behind them. The human who broke into their corpse army hadn't been killed yet. What a joke! Yi Xian had 120 dragons of strength and 3 bloodlines. He could kill these iron corpses as easily as stepping on ants. He was so busy that he didn't have time to pick up the corpses. Humph, damn human. How dare he disturb Master's plan? I'll kill him. A human silver corpse coldly snorted and turned around to rush back. He only had 115 dragons. When he rushed near Yi Xian and saw Yi Xian's realm, he regretted it. Yi Xian had 120 dragons of strength. Master gave me a body. Even if it's 120 dragons, I still have the guts to fight. This human silver corpse was very brave and directly rushed forward. Yi Xian turned his head and saw him. With a sweep of his sword, he cut open his head. What a joke! A mere 115 dragons dared to find trouble with him. The reason why Yi Xian chose to land within the army and not look for trouble with those human silver corpses was because he was afraid that after killing these silver corpses, the entire army would be leaderless and disperse in a hubbub. That was why he started with the iron corpses. If the entire army was scattered, then the surrounding cities and towns would be finished. Yi Xian did not want to become a sinner, so he had to avoid these silver corpses. This legion had 1,000 iron corpses and 10,000 bronze corpses. However, this number was rapidly decreasing. Yi Xian could easily kill dozens of iron corpses with a single strike of Dragon's Judgment. If he were to go to the copper corpses, he could probably kill hundreds of them with a single strike. Human bronze corpses and iron corpses were useless to him, so he only collected the corpses of saint beasts. His realm was also rising bit by bit. Ding! Host has broken through to 121 dragon power. Ding! Host has broken through to 122 dragon power. Ding! Host has broken through to 123 dragon power. In less than 3 minutes, this army of corpses was annihilated by Yi Xian, along with the few human silver corpses. Looking at the corpses on the floor, Yi Xian snorted coldly. This is only a small group of the real legion. There are still 9 more. Yi Xian thought to himself and quickly left. It seemed that this time, he could indeed break through to 130 dragon power. He rode on Wei Zhentian and circled around. As expected, he encountered a second small legion. He immediately rushed down again. This legion allowed him to increase his dragon power by 2, reaching 125 dragon power. He calculated in his heart. If all 10 legions were to be destroyed by him, 130 dragon power would be more than enough. Then, Yi Xian went to find the 3rd small legion. After the 3rd small legion was destroyed, he increased his dragon power by 1 more. However, when he found the 4th legion, it was already intercepted by a group of people. 100 people against an entire legion, huh? Yi Xian watched from above. These 100 people all had the dragon power of 100, and the leader had the dragon power of 130. It seemed that they were experts from the big clans of Redwood City. The battle had been going on for a while. Fortunately, they did not have time to collect the corpses, so Yi Xian benefited. Soon, Yi Xian collected all the corpses and began to hunt the iron corpses. Who is this person? I've never seen him before. He's wearing a strange mask, but it's fine as long as he's on our side. He's so strong. He has 127 dragon power. When did our Redwood City have such an expert? These people were also surprised by Yi Xian's identity. However, Yi Xian was too lazy to pay attention to them. He focused on cleaning up. With the help of these people, Yi Xian had a much easier time. At the same time, the spoils of war were much fewer. Damn it, I can't even increase my dragon power. Yi Xian was helpless. He immediately left and rushed to the next place. When he arrived at the 4th Legion, sure enough, there were also humans cleaning up. He still did not increase his dragon power. He estimated that if the remaining 6 legions of corpses were not held back, they should have already attacked Redwood City. Therefore, this time, he rushed directly to Redwood City. 6 small legions, at least 6,000 iron corpses, and 60,000 copper corpses. With such a huge number of people piling into Redwood City would definitely be razed to the ground. Fortunately, Redwood Lord was not too stupid. He had already gathered all the experts on a rock with the dragon power of 100 and watched from above. Redwood Lord was a spirit realm expert with the dragon power of 140. Other than that, the others were consecrated with the dragon power of 120 and 30. Where did this corpse legion come from? It almost destroyed my Redwood Lord. I heard that there is a faction called the Corpse Master Sect in the Ghost Tomb territory. All the disciples in the sect can refine corpses and control corpses. Could it be that the leader behind this corpse legion is a disciple of the Corpse Master Sect? Isn't the Ghost Tomb territory an intermediate territory? That's right. It is said that there are 3 lords in the Ghost Tomb territory. All 3 of them are spirit realm experts. Don't talk so much. Let's deal with this corpse legion first. The experts on the rock suddenly quieted down. Rumble. At this time, a rumbling sound came from afar. They're here, Lord. We'll go over here. The experts with the dragon power of 120 asked to leave. Be careful. Redwood Lord nodded. Immediately after, a series of loud sounds came from another direction. A few more people went forward and were ordered to destroy the Corpse Legion. Long ago, they had also formulated a plan. That was to first send 2 teams to clean up the Legion. Chapter 413. Chapter 413, luring the tiger away from the mountain. As for the Redwood Horde, he naturally could not make a move because he knew that there was a mastermind behind the Corpse Legion. However, he would never have thought that the mastermind behind the scenes was actually the Redwood Horde Lord who disappeared 100 years ago. He was the Redwood Horde Lord who fought with his father. 100 years ago, the Redwood Horde Lord was already planning his revenge. Although the 7th Horde Lord might have died, killing his descendants was still a very satisfying thing to do. Rumble. Now, there were loud noises coming from all directions. It just so happened that the experts of the Redwood City divided up the 6 corpse legions. At this time, only the old Redwood Horde Lord was left on the rock. Although he was surrounded by tens of thousands of corpses, the Redwood Horde Lord did not move at all. He stood quietly and felt the battle on all sides. Suddenly, he turned his head. Over here. The Redwood Horde Lord's eyes narrowed. He stepped out and directly flew in a direction. Martial artists in the spirit realm could walk in the air, and he was no exception. As for what led him away, it was needless to say. Naturally, it was one of the 2 blood corpses. Ha ha ha, you're finally here. In the east of the Redwood City, the Great Sword Blood Corpse looked at the Redwood Horde Lord who was walking in the air and laughed. Just now, he mixed in with this small army and killed the human experts who came to stop the Corpse Legion. Moreover, his realm was not the same as it was more than a month ago. He had broken through to 170 dragon power. However, he was still in the spirit realm. When the Redwood Horde Lord saw the Great Sword Blood Corpse, he could not help but be moved. 170 dragon blood corpses? Haha, are you afraid? Although the Great Sword Blood Corpse was in the spirit realm, his strength was 30 dragon power higher than the Redwood Horde Lord. He might be able to fight. Is it you who commanded the Corpse Legion, disturbed my Redwood Horde, and wanted to raze my Redwood City to the ground? The Redwood Horde Lord narrowed his eyes and asked. That's right. The Great Sword Blood Corpse nodded. Why? No reason. Isn't it enough to turn you into my kind? The Great Sword Blood Corpse asked back. This explanation was sufficient. The Broadsword Blood Corpse was no longer a human. Although it still had consciousness, its mind had changed greatly. It was possible that killing had become its nature. Therefore, the Redwood Overlord believed him. If that's the case, then I'll get rid of you now. Redwood Overlord didn't waste any more words. After all, every second he wasted meant that a human expert would sacrifice their life for Redwood City. He stood in the air and threw a punch at the broadsword blood corpse. When one's strength reached 100 dragon force in the strength realm, one could attempt to break through. If one broke through to the spirit realm, the strength of one's true chi would greatly increase. Furthermore, one would be able to walk on air. Although the Redwood Lord was weaker than the Great Blade Blood Corpse by 30 dragon power, he was still in the spirit realm. If they really fought, he would definitely have the upper hand. After all, martial arts mainly relied on Zhen Qi. Brute force was not very useful for a spirit realm expert who could fly. The broadsword blood corpse moved quickly and dodged the fist shadow. However, the iron corpses behind it did not survive. What a cunning human. However, I'm not a pushover either. The broadsword blood corpse shouted and rushed forward at full speed. Then, it suddenly jumped up and slashed down with its broadsword above its head. Whoosh whoosh. This slash was like a hot knife through butter. However, the Redwood Overlord merely moved his body and dodged it. However, the Redwood Overlord did not attack the broadsword blood corpse. Instead, he suddenly rose into the air and madly attacked the corpse army behind the broadsword blood corpse. All of his attacks were wide-range attacks. In less than 10 seconds, the 10,000 copper corpses and iron corpses were all blown up. Blood flowed like a river. How cunning. However, I don't care about these trash. The broadsword blood corpse sneered. He knew that he couldn't do anything to the Redwood Overlord, but the Redwood Overlord shouldn't be able to do anything to him either. His plan was only to stall the Redwood Overlord. That's right, it was only to stall. That was because the broadsword blood corpse was on the other side clearing out the human experts. Of course, the Redwood Overlord didn't know that. Old man, eat my blade. The broadsword blood corpse leaped into the air again in order to not expose his plan. Humph. The Redwood Overlord easily dodged the attack. In the next moment, he suddenly landed on the ground. Next, he was going to use his true strength. You still have the advantage in the air. Do you really think you can defeat me on land? The broadsword blood corpse was surprised. Although you are stronger than me, you are still in the physical force realm. I will let you know the difference between the physical force realm and the spirit realm. The Redwood Overlord waved his hand and took out a middle-grade heaven artifact. Then let me see how strong you are. The broadsword blood corpse's eyes flashed as he rushed up again. The Redwood Overlord's face turned serious as he went up to meet the broadsword blood corpse. One was in the spirit realm with 140 dragons, while the other was in the spirit realm with 170 dragons. No one could tell who was the one who was challenging the higher realm. However, this was all for later. Now it was time to see who was stronger. At the same time, in another direction, the broadsword blood corpse was having a great time killing. He had also increased his strength to 170 dragons. Killing the 120 and 130 dragons was like cutting tofu for him. After slaughtering the humans on one side, the broadsword blood corpse ran to the other side. In a few minutes, the human experts were all wiped out. Haha, that old man Redwood Overlord must be entangled with Big Brother. The broadsword blood corpse laughed and pointed his sword at Redwood City. There were more than 50,000 bronze corpses and iron corpses, which were enough to flatten Redwood City. At this moment, the Redwood Overlord, who was fighting with the broadsword blood corpse, suddenly felt that something was wrong. He immediately flew up to the sky to take a look. Oh no, I fell into a trap. Only now did Redwood Tribal Lord realize that he had been lured away from the mountain. He was afraid that there was a second blood corpse slaughtering his subordinates. Damn it! He cursed and turned to leave. Haha, it's too late to realize it now. However, I won't let you go so easily. Dang! The broadsword blood corpse laughed and rushed up again. Get lost! The Redwood Overlord threw out a palm attack. Bang! Although the broadsword blood corpse was pushed back, he was not injured. He sneered. You realized it too late. I'm afraid that my second brother has already entered the city. It won't be long before your Redwood City becomes a ruin. The Redwood Horde leader ignored him and flew into the sky, into the city. He looked around in the sky. Sure enough, some iron corpses had already entered Redwood City. If Yi Xian was here, he would definitely think that the city was surrounded by giants and zombies. Chapter 4:14. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation 2 Spirit Realms. The Redwood Overlord's face was gloomy as he flew in a certain direction. Due to his pride, he did not send his family out. This was going to be troublesome. However, when he arrived at the Redwood City Governor's mansion, he found that it was in ruins. It had been crushed by the Iron Corpse. No! Redwood Overlord went crazy. His family members were all here. At this moment, a scarlet figure entered his sight. It was the Great Sword Blood Corpse. The Great Sword Blood Corpse's sword was dripping with blood. It was holding a human head in its hand. It was one of the Redwood Overlord's daughters. Old man, you're too late. The Great Sword Blood Corpse licked its lips. I'm going to kill you. The Redwood Overlord went crazy and charged toward the Great Sword Blood Corpse. Good timing. The Great Sword Blood Corpse kicked the head away and charged toward the Redwood Overlord. The Great Sword Blood Corpse and the Great Sword Blood Corpse both had 170 dragon power. There was not much difference in their strength. Since the Redwood Overlord could not do anything to the Great Sword Blood Corpse, it was natural that he could not do anything to the Great Sword Blood Corpse. However, the Great Sword Blood Corpse was also on its way. Sure enough, the Great Sword Blood Corpse had also arrived 5 seconds after the two of them fought. The Redwood Overlord felt immense pressure when the two blood corpses joined forces. However, he was already in a killing frenzy. After all, the entire governor's mansion had been destroyed. What was the point of him living alone? Two 170 Dragon Strength Realm Warriors were fighting against one 140 Dragon Spirit Realm Warrior. In terms of realm, the Redwood Territory Lord had the upper hand, but in terms of strength and numbers, he lost by quite a bit. Therefore, in less than 10 rounds, he was covered in wounds. He looked like he was at the end of his rope. He was going all out. Even if he died, he had to kill the two blood corpses. Is he going all out? The Great Sword Blood Corpse's eyes flashed. He could recover quickly from his injuries, but the Redwood Overlord could not. Therefore, he felt that the Redwood Overlord would be the one to die in the end. However, at this moment, suddenly, a large black shadow swept over from the horizon. Immediately after, a blood-red figure descended. What? The two blood corpses and the Redwood Overlord were both shocked. It was another blood corpse that landed. What was going on? Both parties were frightened, but in the next moment, the Broadsword Blood Corpse and the Broadsword Blood Corpse's faces darkened, because this blood corpse was charging toward them. 170 dragons. It was also a blood corpse of 170 dragons. Impossible! How could there be a blood corpse? Our master consumed countless natural treasures and spent 100 years to refine us. Where did this blood corpse come from? The Great Blade Blood Corpse was extremely shocked. In the next moment, they felt that this bloody corpse was somewhat familiar. Left Protector? The Great Blade Bloody Corpse recognized him. This Left Protector was one of the generals under the command of the 7th Redwood Lord, who been 100 years ago. It really is you too. The sword-wielding blood corpse also recognized the other party. Left Protector, you've also become a blood corpse. This means that the old bastard is still alive. The Great Blade Blood Corpse frowned. Not bad. Just as he finished speaking, another figure suddenly descended from the sky. Like the Redwood Overlord, this figure was able to stand in the air. It was an old man with a long blood-red beard. He looked very similar to the Redwood Overlord. When the Redwood Overlord saw the two new blood corpses, he was shocked. However, when he saw the person who could fly like him, he immediately exclaimed, "Father!" This blood-bearded old man was the 7th Redwood Lord, who been. He was also the current Redwood Overlord's father. The Redwood Overlord was shocked. Back then, Hubin had passed the position of Overlord to him and then went out to travel. He had never returned, so the Redwood Overlord thought that Hubin had died outside. However, after a few decades, even if there was no accident, Hubin would have died of old age. However, he did not expect that his father would also become a blood corpse and live to this day. If he counted, his father was probably more than 130 years old. It really is you, old man. The Broadsword Blood Corpse and the Broadsword Blood Corpse recognized him. Back then, it was this old man who had bribed them and caused them to be killed by Qi Lian. You are still alive, which means that Qi Lian is still alive. Qilian, are you not coming out?
The blood-bearded old man shouted.
In the next moment, another figure descended from the clouds. It was another spirit realm expert. Qilian, it really is you.
The blood-bearded old man, Hu Bin, looked at the blood-eyed middle-aged man in front of him.
Old man, back then, you severely injured me for the corpse-controlling secret record. However, you would never expect that the corpse-controlling secret record you obtained was not complete. I think that you should be stuck at 170 dragons, right?
Qilian narrowed his blood-red eyes and asked.
The blood-bearded old man, Hu Bin, was stunned. He sighed in his heart. Qilian's guess was accurate. Humph, I was able to injure you severely 100 years ago. I can still do it today.
Hu Bin snorted coldly.
Then you can try. Qilian's eyes flashed, and 18 great flying dragons rose up. 180 dragons of power. Moreover, it was the spirit realm. The Redwood Overlord and Hu Bin's face sank. The former's emotions fluctuated. He originally thought that Hu Bin's appearance could turn the situation around. However, it seemed that was not the case. If he and the Left Protector worked together, they could fight against the two blood corpses, broadsword and broadsword. However, Hu Bin and Qilian had a difference of 10 dragons. In this situation, unless one side died, the battle would not end. Kill! After 2 seconds of stalemate, the two sides suddenly attacked. 3 against 3. On the Redwood City side, there were 2 Spirit Realm experts and a Blood Corpse. On the Thousand Corpse Legion side, there were 2 Blood Corpses and Qilian, who had a Spirit Realm of 180 dragons. It was hard to say who would win and who would lose. However, one should not forget that the Thousand Corpse Legion had tens of thousands of copper corpses. If they were to rush in, Redwood City would be finished. Even if the human experts who went to intercept the Thousand Corpse Legion returned, they would not be able to stop so many. However, there was still a decisive factor in this battle. At this moment, in a layer of clouds above Redwood City, 170 dragons of Spirit Realm, 180 dragons of Spirit Realm, 140 dragons of Spirit Realm, and 3 blood corpses of 170 dragons. Yi Xian's eyes shone. If he obtained all of these people's items, breaking through to 140 dragons would not be a dream. He was currently only at 127 dragons. Even if he used Beast King Rampage, he might not be able to kill everyone. TSK. Let them fight until both sides are injured. I'll gain some experience now. Yi Xian laughed sinisterly and suddenly jumped down. This Thousand Corpse Legion was like an ant to him. He could easily trample them to death. Chapter 4:15. Yi Xian's entrance. Yi Xian was very fast. In 1 second, he could kill hundreds of bronze corpses. In just a few minutes, more than half of the Iron Corpse army was killed. At the same time, Yi Xian's realm increased to 129 dragons. He was 1 dragon away from 130 dragons. Yi Xian suddenly paused. He turned his head to look at the distant sky. The battle was still ongoing. It had been a few minutes, but they were still fighting. It seemed that the difference in strength between the two sides was not big. Coincidentally, Yi Xian also had time to deal with the remaining corpses. After Yi Xian dealt with most of the remaining iron corpses and copper corpses, his strength finally rose to 130 dragon strength. Rumble! Coincidentally, the battle in the distance was also coming to an end. After 10 minutes of fighting, both sides' chi was almost depleted. Yi Xian glanced over and approached. Qilian, although your talent is not bad and your realm is higher than mine, the martial art left behind by my ancestor is not something you can handle. Hu Bin looked at Qilian coldly. Qilian's blood-red eyes flashed. He sneered.
Is that so? After saying that, the great wyvern flying around him began to burn. He's burning his chi.
Hu Bin sucked in a breath of cold air. He was really daring. Burning his chi would cause his realm to drop. However, in a life-and-death situation, burning his chi was not a big deal. Damn it, I don't know how to burn my chi. This is bad. Hu Bin's face darkened. Before he could finish his thought, Qilian had already arrived in front of him. Bang! Qilian slashed out with his sword, sending Hu Bin flying. The gap between them widened. In the blink of an eye, Hu Bin was at a disadvantage. The victor would be decided soon. At this time, Yi Xian, who was watching from the clouds, revealed a cunning expression. Qi Lian had 180 dragons, and he was still in the spirit realm. Even if he used Beast King Rampage, he might not be a match for him. However, Qi Lian was burning his true qi at this moment. This meant that with every second that passed, his cultivation level would drop.
After a while, he might drop to 175 dragons or even 170 dragons.
This would be letting him off too easily. However, Yi Xian could no longer hold back. In the end, he decided to make a move. Kill.
His eyes flashed as he landed on the ground.
His target was the 3 blood corpses and the Spirit Realm Redwood leader. His 130 dragon force immediately soared to 170 dragon force as he charged into the battlefield.
What?
The 4 of them turned their heads and saw Yi Xian, wearing an Iron Man mask, rushing towards them at lightning speed.
So fast.
At this moment, Yi Xian's speed was already over 200 dragons. If he was currently in the spirit realm, then he would be in the royal air level too. Old antique, I spared your life before. Today I'm here to take your head. Yi Xian roared and charged at the broadsword blood corpse. The speed of 200 dragons put a lot of pressure on the broadsword blood corpse. He already had an opponent of the same level. Now that he was facing off against Yi Xian, he could not fight back at all.
Die!
Yi Xian swung his sword. Then, the broadsword blood corpse's head flew into the air.
Instant kill.
The broadsword blood corpse probably did not expect that Yi Xian, whom he let go more than a month ago, would grow to the level where he could kill him in one hit. Although he had an extremely strong recovery physique, he would not be able to live after his head was cut off.
So strong.
The guardian of the left's eyes lit up when he saw Yi Xian kill the broadsword blood corpse. This was great news for him. However, in the next moment, Yi Xian made him realize that this was not good news at all. It was a nightmare. That was because Yi Xian also swung his sword at him. You old man, you don't look like a good person either.
Die.
Swish. 2 heads flew into the air. Then, Yi Xian quickly took off their interspatial rings.
Ding.
The host has broken through to 133 dragons of power. When the system notification sounded, Yi Xian was very helpless. It was fine if it was the broadsword blood corpse. After all, he had already taken the interspatial ring once. However, the guardian of the left was an antique that had lived for more than 100 years. Why did he have so few things in his interspatial ring? It seems that the things are with that old man Bloodbeard. Yi Xian did not think too much and dashed out again. What? The Redwood Lord and the broadsword blood corpse were stunned. This time, Yi Xian's target was the Redwood Lord. As the Redwood Lord, he was naturally rich. Since he was in the spirit realm, he became Yi Xian's primary target. Swish! A crisp sound was heard. The Redwood Lord's hand was cut off. At the same time, he was seriously injured. The Redwood Lord, who was in the level 1 Qi controlling realm, could not react in time at all. Yi Xian spared the Redwood Lord's life because he was still a human. After all, the Redwood Lord still needed him to take charge of the situation after this. Then, Yi Xian turned his attention to the broadsword blood corpse.
Oh no!
The broadsword blood corpse's eyes flashed. He turned around and ran. You're not qualified to escape from me, Yi Xian. Underworld swordsmanship. Sword descends to the underworld. The broadsword blood corpse was originally a dead object. Yi Xian was only helping him to transcend. The 4th interspatial ring was received. Ding! The host has broken through to 137 dragons of power. The Redwood Lord's interspatial ring was quite rich. Yi Xian nodded with satisfaction. Then he quickly left. This scene happened too suddenly. It didn't even take a second. The 2 people in the sky were fighting fiercely. Naturally, they would not notice it so quickly. Yi Xian was very annoyed. After all, the battle was in the sky. He could not interfere at all. If he rode on Wei Zhentian, he was afraid that he would only harm it. However, at this moment, black jade ore? Suddenly, Yi Xian found a black ore in the Redwood Lord's interspatial ring. He immediately unleashed Wei Zhentian. Little Tian, your snacks are here. When Wei Zhentian saw the pile of black jade ore, his eyes almost popped out. He immediately turned into a big furnace and poured the black jade ore into it. Ding! Host Wei Zhentian has broken through to the aura realm. Current strength. 150 dragons of power.
What?
Yi Xian was so shocked that his mouth was wide open. Wei Zhentian only had 99 dragons of power before. If he wanted to break through to the Aura realm, he needed Black Jade Oregon. However, the system increased his strength by 50 dragons after he swallowed the Black Jade Oregon. Was this the benefit of breaking through? The Sacred Beast Growth Plan is amazing. Little Tian, let's go. Yi Xian shouted in a low voice. Wei Zhentian immediately turned into a rock and carried Yi Xian into the sky. At this moment, Yi Xian's strength had reached 179 dragons. He was very close to the Qi Lian Lord. Chapter 4:16. Back to the netherworld abyss. Qi Lian, who was suppressing Hu Bin, suddenly felt that something was wrong. He turned around and saw Wei Zhentian flapping his wings and flying towards him. Wei Zhentian's speed was almost catching up to him. When a human martial artist broke through to the spirit realm, they could fly. However, compared to a spirit realm flying saint beast, their speed was slower. A spirit realm flying saint beast of the same level would definitely be faster than a human. At this moment, Qi Lian and Hu Bin realized that Yi Xian had already killed 3 of the 4 people. Only the Redwood Lord was left with a heavily injured person. It was obvious that Yi Xian was a third party. Die! Yi Xian rushed in with Wei Zhentian, but his attacks were all aimed at Hu Bin. After all, Hu Bin was easier to deal with than Qi Lian. As long as Hu Bin's universe ring fell into Yi Xian's hands, Yi Xian would be able to break through again. At that time, killing Qi Lian would be a piece of cake. It's over. Hu Bin's face was gloomy. He was already beaten up by Qi Lian to the point that he could not fight back. Now that Yi Xian was involved, one of his arms would be chopped off in less than 2 rounds. Moreover, it was the left arm that was wearing the universe ring. You want to take it? Qi Lian had heard about Yi Xian from the broadsword blood corpse, so he recognized him. Therefore, when Hu Bin's arm flew up, he attacked Yi Xian. Humph! Yi Xian snorted coldly. He stomped his feet and leaped towards Qi Lian. As for Wei Zhentian, he instantly turned into a small bird and took off Hu Bin's universe ring. Not good. Qi Lian forgot that Yi Xian was not alone and immediately retreated. Yi Xian could not fly, so he could only attack from a distance. He could not chase after him. However, at this moment, Wei Zhentian turned around and returned to his feet. Qi Lian, you're finished. Yi Xian held Hu Bin's universe ring in his hand, and his eyes were filled with endless killing intent. Ding! Host has broken through to 140 dragon power. Although he had only gained 3 dragon strength, every time he broke through, the things he needed would naturally increase as well. 3 dragons' strength was already not bad. At this moment, there were more than 20 wyverns surrounding Yi Xian. There were 18 big ones and 2 small ones. 182 dragon powers. As for Qi Lian, he had already dropped to 175 dragons. It's over. Qi Lian was also in despair. He did not expect Yi Xian to appear out of nowhere and ruin his revenge plan. Don't worry, I will kill him for you. When Yi Xian's words reached Qi Lian's ears, his head flew into the air. Although Qi Lian was inhumane and had massacred tens of sects of various sizes, he did it for revenge. As for Hu Bin, he was his enemy. Yi Xian did not care whether Hu Bin was human or not. After all, Hu Bin was no longer human. Therefore, Hu Bin would not be able to escape death. No! The 7th Redwood Lord, Hu Bin's head was also thrown into the air. Then, 2 corpses fell from the sky. Pah! Blood corpses were very strange things. After they died, they would quickly turn into a pool of blood. The same was true for the 3 blood corpses. Qi Lian and Hu Bin's corpses dissolved into blood in the air and turned into a rain of blood. 2 spirit realm experts were killed by Yi Xian. Ding! Host has broken through to 150 dragon powers. A notification sounded. Yi Xian was stunned. Qi Lian and Hu Bin were indeed very rich. Their yin and yang rings allowed Yi Xian to break through to 10 dragon power. However, for these spirit realm experts who had 170 and 180 dragon powers, it was a little too poor. This battle could be considered to have ended. The 1,000 corpse core was destroyed and Qi Lian died. This was a good ending. Father. The Redwood Lord dragged his heavily injured body and rushed over. However, Hu Bin had already turned into a pool of blood. Even if a god descended, he would not be able to revive him. Yi Xian didn't feel the slightest bit of guilt. This was a world of experts. Killing and seizing treasures was obvious. Yi Xian didn't kill the Redwood Territory Lord as well, so he could be considered extremely benevolent. After glancing at the Redwood Lord, he rode Wei Zhentian and left. If he wanted to break through to 150 dragon powers, he would have to go to a more powerful territory to train. The Redwood Lord might not be able to satisfy him. However, there was another place in the Redwood Lord that Yi Xian was very interested in. That was the Netherworld Abyss. There was a maze that trapped him for more than a month. There must be something good inside. However, before that, he visited all the sects in the Redwood Lord to see if he had missed any iron corpses or copper corpses. Then, he arrived at the Netherworld Abyss again. This was the third time he had come to the Netherworld Abyss. Last time, I had 120 dragon powers, but I was unable to break through this maze. Today, I have 150 dragon powers. I wonder if I can. Yi Xian thought in his heart. If it was any other time, he would not have bothered to come here. However, this was a special time. He was stuck in the physical strength realm. If he wanted to break through from the physical strength realm to the spirit realm, he would need a few heavenly treasures. The nether grass was one of them. Although there was a 60% chance of breaking through to the spirit realm, Yi Xian did not dare to gamble. He wanted a 100% chance. After mentally preparing himself, Yi Xian walked in. Soon, he found the maze. 120 dragon powers versus 150 dragon powers. The difference was huge. Yi Xian's physique had also improved. This would be of great help to him in breaking through the maze. At most, he would use Beast King's Rampage. If there was really nether grass in the maze, he would be able to break through to the spirit realm earlier. He had a feeling that there would definitely be nether grass in this maze. Let me see how powerful this maze is. Yi Xian thought for a while and stepped in. This time, he had exchanged for many items to break through the maze. These items were actually markers. The most troublesome part of a maze was to lose one's direction. As long as one found the right direction, they would be able to break through the maze. However, Yi Xian was too naive. He walked in the west direction, but in the end, he returned to the starting point. It seemed that this maze was not ordinary. He walked in circles for 3 days, but he was still helpless. However, on the 7th day after he entered the maze. What a powerful aura. Yi Xian suddenly stopped in his tracks. The Beast King bloodline in his body suddenly boiled. There was definitely a powerful saint beast in front of him. It must be the flying centipede. It should be resting. Yi Xian's eyes lit up. If he followed his senses, he might be able to break through the maze. At that moment, he walked in that direction. Chapter 417. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation treasure found this time. It was indeed beyond Yi Xian's expectations. At the same time, it also proved that he was close to breaking the formation. Otherwise, he would not have sensed the flying centipede. However, there was still a very important problem at hand. He was heading in the direction of the flying centipede. If he encountered the flying centipede, he would be in trouble. The flying centipede was a level 2 chi-controlling cultivator. It had at least 200 dragon power. What if the flying centipede had 290 dragon power? He paused for a moment and pondered. However, at that moment, the other bloodline in his body took effect again. This time, it was the treasure-hunting deer. Good stuff. There's good stuff around here, and there's quite a lot of it. Yi Xian sensed an abundance of spiritual energy. With the addition of the treasure-hunting deer's bloodline, his senses were even stronger. After thinking for a moment, he made a decision. Do it. At that moment, he continued to walk forward. He was very careful, afraid that he would make a sound and attract the flying centipede's attention. As he continued to move forward, the feeling became stronger and stronger. His blood was boiling. He estimated that if he could obtain these treasures, he might be able to break through to 10 dragon power. That was because the feeling of spiritual energy was too strong. At that moment, hiss. Suddenly, Yi Xian heard a hissing sound. He was so shocked that he immediately stopped in his tracks. His expression darkened. He was fully alert, ready to use Beast King's Rampage at any moment. Obviously, that was the flying centipede's hissing sound. He thought that he was too close and was discovered by the flying centipede. However, he guessed wrong. After the flying centipede hissed, it rose into the air, flew over his head,
and began to patrol the entire netherworld abyss.
Phew! Yi Xian heaved a sigh of relief. So it went out for a stroll. That almost scared him to death. After the flying centipede left, Yi Xian walked around on his own and finally walked out of the maze. At that moment, he saw a flower bed. In his impression, a flower bed should be a bright and beautiful place, but this large flower bed was actually a gloomy and dark black species. Poisonous creatures.
All of them are poisonous heavenly treasures of heaven and earth.
Who planted them? Yi Xian widened his eyes in disbelief. Previously, he had sensed a large amount of spirit qi, but it was a little strange. He didn't expect that this place was actually a poisonous flower garden. As for that flying centipede, it was most likely the guard of this poisonous flower bed. I don't care. Poisonous grass is also a natural treasure. I don't care who planted it. I'll just swallow it all. Yi Xian didn't care about anything else. He rushed in and began to harvest like crazy. He didn't look at which poisonous plants were mature and which were still seedlings. He plucked them all first. Ding! Host has broken through to 151 dragon power. Ding! Host has broken through to 152 dragon power. Ding! Host has broken through to 153 dragon power. The system beeped continuously. Yi Xian was very excited. His guess was right. There was really something good in this maze. Soon, this poisonous flower bed, which was over 1,000 square meters, was swept clean by Yi Xian. Ding! Host has broken through to 160 dragon power. When Yi Xian swept the entire poisonous flower bed clean, he had broken through to 160 dragon power. It was just right. At the same time, he also obtained a netherworld grass. 160 dragon power was a 70% chance of breaking through. With the addition of the netherworld grass, it was 80%. This probability was already on par with rice cake. However, Yi Xian still didn't try to break through. He didn't want to fall for that 20% failure rate. This poisonous flower bed seems to have been planted recently. I wonder who planted so many heavenly treasures. Yi Xian was very surprised. However, he understood that the person who could plant such precious poisonous plants was definitely not an ordinary person. Although these poisonous plants weren't mature yet and it was a pity to pluck them, he had already plucked them. Moreover, he was able to take advantage of the fact that no one was around. We can't stay here for long. Retreat! Yi Xian didn't dare to stay here. He hurriedly entered the maze. Just now, he found this poisonous flower bed by relying on the Beast King bloodline. If he wanted to leave now, he was afraid that it would be a mess. He estimated that it would take at least 10 days to half a month. However, not long after Yi Xian left, a figure swept out from the mist above the poisonous flower bed. It was an old man. When he saw that the poisonous flower bed he planted had disappeared, he immediately raised his head to the sky and let out a long howl. Damn thing! Who was it that stole the poisonous grass that I carefully planted? He couldn't understand. He had run to many places before he finally found a suitable place to plant a large amount of poisonous grass. Because the strength of the redwood territory was relatively backward, he only set up a simple maze formation and caught a flying centipede of the second level of the royal air tier to guard the sky. He didn't expect that someone would be able to break through his maze. At that moment, he directly swept out. Because he could see from below that the person who stole all the treasures in his poisonous flower bed had just left. At that moment, Yi Xian, who was shuttling through the maze, was scared half to death when he heard the shout. *T. The owner of the poisonous flower bed is back. Yi Xian's face was gloomy. His intestines were green with regret. If he had known, he would have waited until the other party left before plucking them. Let's dig a hole and hide first. Yi Xian immediately came up with a plan. He had tried to dig a tunnel out of this place before, but the maze formation included the underground as well, so it was of no use at all. However, digging a hole to hide temporarily was feasible. However, at that moment, hiss! The flying centipede suddenly swept over his head and hissed. Then, a person fell from the sky and landed on the ground with a thud. To be precise, it landed behind Yi Xian. *T. Yi Xian heard the sound behind him and immediately stopped what he was doing. He tensed up and turned around. When he turned around, he saw the red-faced old man. However, at this moment, his face had turned green from anger. At the same time,
Yi Xian also noticed the number of large flying dragons flying around the red-faced old man. There were a total of 30 of them. 300 dragon power. Level 3 Imperial Qi. Yi Xian realized that he was doomed. Even if he used Beast King's rampage, he would still be killed instantly by a level 3 Imperial Qi expert. This time, he was really courting death. Senior Yi Xian hurriedly explained. However, just as he spoke, he felt a pain in his left hand. He instinctively looked down and found that his left wrist was already gone. Blood splattered everywhere. So fast. The red-faced old man's speed was so fast that it exceeded his reaction time. Chapter 4:18. Translator, Transin Editor. Transin captured Yi Xian turned his head in shock and found that his wrist had been thrown to the side by the red-faced elder. As for the interspatial ring, it was in the red-faced elder's hand. Where is it? The red-faced elder asked in a hoarse voice. Yi Xian understood that he was looking for the poisonous grass. However, he had devoured all the poisonous grass. The netherworld grass that he did not devour was also in his devour space. This interspatial ring was used for posturing. No, it was just for show. I ate all the poisonous grass. Yi Xian cut to the chase and threw out a suspense. He ate it. A person could eat so many poisonous grass and not die. This was enough to surprise the red-faced elder. That was the only way he could survive. He ate it? The red-faced elder was shocked. Among the poisonous grass, there were many that even he had to carefully pluck, but they were all eaten by Yi Xian. How was that possible? Most importantly, how could such a large area of poisonous flower beds be eaten by someone? At that moment, the red-faced elder suddenly noticed that Yi Xian's wrist was slowly growing back. It did not take long for it to return to its original state. This scene caused him to be dumbstruck. What the hell are you? The red-faced elder asked in shock. It was impossible for a human to regrow a severed arm. However, he had seen it with his own eyes, so he could not help but wonder if Yi Xian was a human. I am a human. However, I once consumed a treasure of heaven and earth. That is why I am immune to poison and have the ability to regrow a severed arm, Yi Xian hurriedly explained. Immune to poison and regrow a severed arm? The red-faced elder frowned slightly. He did not sense any other interspatial rings on Yi Xian's body. Therefore he thought for a moment and said, Did you cultivate by eating poisonous grass? No, my body is a little special. If I don't eat the poisonous grass, I might explode and die. Yi Xian randomly made up an excuse. He had no choice but to eat all the poisonous grass. The red-faced elder was skeptical. His ashen face recovered a little, but his expression was a little strange. After pondering for a moment, he threw a poison to Yi Xian and said, Eat him in front of me. If you are lying to me. He did not continue because he felt that if Yi Xian was lying to him, he would also be poisoned to death by this poisonous plant. There was no need for him to do anything. Yi Xian caught the poisonous plant and realized that he had devoured it before, but he had never eaten it before. F***CK, this is bad. I can only trust the sacred tree of life this time. Yi Xian gritted his teeth, took a bite of the leaf, and swallowed it. Although he could keep the leaf in his devouring space, the elder in front of him was at level 3 Qi controlling realm. If he swallowed it with his mouth and was seen through, he would be dead meat. Therefore, he could only risk it this time. He chewed the leaves of the poisonous grass and swallowed them. The next moment, he heard the sound of the system notification. Ding! The host has planted this poison for free. Phew! After hearing this notification sound, Yi Xian also breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that the sacred tree of life bloodline was very powerful. Continue. At this moment, the red-faced elder said coldly. Now that Yi Xian was at ease, he swallowed the entire bitter poisonous grass into his stomach. The red-faced elder looked at him with a frown. After waiting for about 10 breaths, he showed a surprised expression. You are really immune to poison? The red-faced elder asked in shock. Absolutely. However, I can't resist some rare or powerful poisons. Yi Xian nodded. The red-faced elder looked at him skeptically and asked, Can you tell the poison of that plant just now? Hearing this, Yi Xian was stunned for a moment, then said, When I swallowed it, my stomach burned like it was going to explode. After 3 breaths, I felt a little nauseous. There seemed to be something moving in my stomach. Now my head is a little bloated. This answer made the red-faced old man feel astonished again, saying, "That stalk is scorching sun grass. If a person under the second level of royal chi mistakenly takes a leaf, within 3 breaths of time, they will burn to ashes from the inside out."
F***CK. After hearing this explanation, Yi Xian was scared half to death. In fact, he did not say the symptoms at all. He saw the list of poisons listed by the devouring system and read them out himself. If anyone below Dragon Level 2 accidentally consumes a leaf, they will be burned to ashes within 3 breaths. However, he swallowed the entire plant. Try this one. The red-faced old man took out another poisonous plant. F***CK. Are you using me to test the poison? Yi Xian helplessly received it. This time, he carefully bit off a bit of the poisonous grass's leaves and swallowed it. After hearing the system's notification, he ate the entire poisonous grass. You are indeed immune to poison. The red-faced elder narrowed his eyes and looked at Yi Xian with a strange expression. Senior, I have mistakenly entered this place and made a big mistake. I hope you can forgive me. I will compensate you for these poisonous plants, Yi Xian said. Humph. You dare to say that you will compensate me? Do you know how much this poisonous flower bed is worth? The red-faced elder snorted coldly. Yi Xian did not say anything. This poisonous flower bed had allowed him to go from 150 dragon strength to 160 dragon strength, and it was incredibly valuable. If he sold it for cultivation resources, he might be able to break through from 150 dragon strength to 170 dragon strength, or even 190 dragon strength, or even 200 dragon strength. Yi Xian's devouring system required much more cultivation resources than people of the same level. The advantage of this was that he could save a lot of time. Therefore, Yi Xian could not afford to compensate him. At this moment the red-faced elder snorted. You swallowed my entire poisonous flower bed. You should have committed a capital offense. But I like you. As long as you are willing to help me, I will spare your life. Otherwise, you will die immediately. Hearing that there was a way out, Yi Xian quickly asked, Senior, what do you want me to do? The red-faced old man replied without hesitation. Test poison. I have many poisons with unknown toxicity. I want you to test the toxicity of these poisons for me. As long as you do a good job, I will let you go one day. This? Yi Xian paused and frowned. The red-faced elder did not specify a specific time. In other words, he would have to wait for the red-faced elder's reaction. If the red-faced elder did not let him go, then he would be imprisoned forever. However, this was not a hopeless situation. This was because the red-faced elder did not know that he had the devouring system. As long as he secretly hid poisons, accumulated them, and devoured them all at once, he could use Beast King Rampage after his strength increased. There was no way he could escape. All right, I agree. Yi Xian nodded. Chapter 419. Chapter 419 Chapter 419 Ghost Tomb Territory. A wise man submits to circumstances. Don't worry, as long as you do a good job, I'll let you go. The red-faced old man stepped forward and grabbed Yi Xian's shoulder and flew into the air. Yi Xian was shocked and asked, Senior, where are we going? This redwood territory is the 10th plantation I found. Now that you've plucked all of them, we can only come back after a while. The red-faced old man held Yi Xian in one hand and answered, My name is Old Hong, a member of the 100 Poison sect in Ghost Tomb Territory. Ghost Tomb Territory? Hearing this name, Yi Xian frowned. He remembered that Ghost Tomb Territory was not adjacent to Redwood Territory. They were separated by a few territories. Ghost Tomb Territory was a mid-level territory in the Luo Sha region. There were a total of 3 superforces in it. One was the Poison King sect, the second was the Corpse Master sect, and the third was the Fallen Ghost sect. These 3 forces belonged to the evil path, and it was said that they had soul essence realm experts. These 3 overlord sects led to the atmosphere in Ghost Tomb Territory. Therefore, Ghost Tomb Territory was a very chaotic territory. Very few people would enter Ghost Tomb Territory, and the high-level territories were too lazy to care, letting them develop on their own. Old Hong did not care whether Yi Xian had heard of it or not. He continued, My 100 Poison sect members are good at using poison, and we personally make the poison. However, the plantation of poison is not everywhere, so we usually have to go to other territories to find it and then plant it. I only found this redwood territory recently, but I didn't expect that it would be destroyed by you. This is also the first time I, Old Hong, have done this in so many years. Ahem. Yi Xian was so embarrassed that he could not speak. If the heavens gave him another chance, he would definitely not come back. He would choose to level up honestly. Unfortunately, he only had one chance. Fortunately, the result was not too bad this time. Old Hong's speed was very fast. As expected of a third-ranked Qi-controlling realm, he carried Yi Xian and rushed for 7 days, only resting once a day. After that, Yi Xian was forcefully brought into the dark ghost tomb territory, and Old Hong carried him like he was carrying a chicken. What a disgusting smell. If one lives here all year round, their temperament will change. No wonder no one wants to enter ghost tomb territory. Yi Xian could not help but frown. Although it was broad daylight, he smelled a lot of corpses. 100 Poisons Sect, Old Hong reminded him seriously. 100 Poisons Sect disciples. Have. Even old Monster Hong, who was at the 3rd level of the Qi-controlling realm, was only a plant manager. Then the strength of the 100 Poisons Sect was not that simple. 100 Poisons Sect was built in a valley called 100 Poison Valley. It was surrounded by a defensive formation. Under the defensive formation of 100 Poison Valley, there was a poisonous forest. There were maze and illusion formations in the forest. If an ordinary person did not have a way to enter, they would only end up dead. Old Hong brought Yi Xian into 100 Poison Sect. Just as they arrived at the gate, a 100 Poison Sect disciple asked, "Manager Hong, this person is..." "This is the new drug tester," Old Monster Hong explained. Oh! The disciple heard this explanation and did not stop them. He directly let them in. Normally, the 100 Poisons Sect would plant their own poisonous plants and flowers, and then refine poisons and nurture poisonous creatures. However, due to various factors, they would refine many poisons with unknown medicinal properties. Thus, they needed someone to test the poisons. This kind of person was called a drug tester. However, these drug testers all had extremely tragic endings. They were usually caught by 100 Poisons Sect disciples and lived for 10 days to half a month at most. The most tragic ones were used as a drug tester as soon as they entered, and did not live for more than 2 minutes. Moreover, they died in all kinds of strange ways, such as turning into a pool of blood, oozing pus, skin ulceration, etc. In any case, none of the drug testers who came in walked out of 100 Poison Valley alive. Yi Xian naturally knew this, but he had the bloodline of the sacred tree of life, so he should be able to survive. Of course, it would depend on whether Old Hong would let him go. Old Hong grabbed Yi Xian and returned to his remote residence. "Kid, you will live here from now on. You haven't even reached the spirit realm, so it's best if you don't think of escaping." Just now, there was only one disciple guarding the gate, but there were actually several 4th-level Imperial Qi protectors guarding the surroundings. Old Hong reminded him and then returned to his residence next door. "This junior understands." Yi Xian nodded. Just now, he did not notice anyone else. 4th-level Imperial Qi was 1 level higher than Old Hong. "I have some unknown poison on hand. Wait here for a while and don't go out recklessly." Old Hong reminded him again and then left. Yi Xian felt helpless in his heart. He didn't expect that he would be captured by a large power after courting death. Soon, Old Hong brought back 3 poisonous plants for Yi Xian to test. Yi Xian did not dare to be careless. He first bit a small part of the plant and then swallowed it. After confirming that the bloodline of the sacred tree of life was immune, he swallowed the whole plant. Then, he put it into the devouring system and pretended to chew and swallow it. Just like that, he obtained 2 precious poisonous plants. However, after he ate a small part of the 3rd plant, the system's notification sound finally changed. Ding! The host has been poisoned. Detoxification starting. What? Poisoned? Yi Xian's face changed drastically. He prayed that the plant's toxicity was not strong enough to kill him immediately. Seeing Yi Xian's face turn green, Old Hong immediately asked, "What's wrong with you?" "I've been poisoned. I need some time to detoxify." Yi Xian's whole body was sore. He felt that his bones were about to break into pieces. Fortunately, he only swallowed a small part of the plant, so the detoxification time was not too long. Otherwise, his mind would have collapsed. Done! Yi Xian breathed a sigh of relief and began to report the toxicity. Old Hong was shocked. This is a new poisonous plant that our 100 Poisons sect has just planted. Last month, it killed a level 2 Imperial Chi cultivator. How did you survive? F***CK. Level 2 Imperial Chi cultivator? Yi Xian rolled his eyes. This was an expert with at least 200 dragon power. Now, Old Hong realized that he had found a treasure. If this was the case, then he could go to the 100 Poisons sect to take the poison test. After that, he could get a lot of cultivation resources. Good, very good. Old Hong nodded with satisfaction. That's all for today. I'll come back tomorrow. Also, without my permission, you are not allowed to step out of the yard. These poisonous plants are for you. Chapter 420. Spirit Realm. Yi Xian sighed. How sad. Not only was he used to test poison, he was also grounded. However, the 100 Poisons sect was not like the Heaven's Hatred Sword sect. Even a random plant manager was a rank 3 Imperial Chi expert. Thus, he felt that it was better to be careful. He did not want to be hated by a 100 Poisons sect disciple because he was too handsome. At that time, he would really die without a complete corpse. He quietly stayed in the residence that Old Monster Hong arranged for him, and waited for Old Monster Hong to send him poisonous plants every day. The devouring system was not bad. Yi Xian only obtained the nether grass, which could increase his chances of breaking through by 10%. The nether grass was originally meant for spirit realm martial artists to break through. However, it required another type of medicinal plant, otherwise, they would be poisoned to death by the nether grass. Right now, he had 160 dragon power, which already had a 70% chance of breaking through. With the nether grass, it would be 80%. As long as he increased his strength by 20 dragon power, he would be able to break through to the spirit realm. He was bored in his residence for a day. On the second day, Old Monster Hong brought him more poisonous plants for him to test. Yi Xian tested them one by one, and received some poisonous plants as a reward. The poisonous plants in his devouring system were also increasing bit by bit. He estimated that he could break through by 2 dragon power. However, he held himself back because 2 dragon strength was useless right now. What he wanted was 20 dragon strength. Of course, 20 dragon power was only enough for him to break through. It was not that easy to escape. Just like that, Yi Xian stayed in Old Monster Hong's residence for a month. In the first half of the month, Old Monster Hong would bring poisonous grass to test the poison for Yi Xian every day. However, half a month later, Old Monster Hong disappeared for 7 days. When he returned, his entire person was different. He had broken through 20 dragon strength and reached 320 dragons. This shocked Yi Xian. Breaking through once and he had already broken through 20 dragon power. Was it that easy to break through to the spirit realm? During this month, Yi Xian had gathered quite a lot of poisonous plants. He estimated that he could break through to 10 dragon power. Right now, he was only 10 dragons away from breaking through to the spirit realm. Today, Old Freak Hong brought some more poisonous herbs. Yi Xian tested them again and reported the toxicity. Alright, after a while, the poisonous grass will be gone. At that time, it will be the poisonous pills and poisonous substances. As long as you can hold on, I will keep my word and let you go. Old Freak Hong said with satisfaction. In this 1 month, he had brought nearly half of the unknown poisonous plants in the entire 100 Poisons sect, and Yi Xian had tested them for him one by one, giving him a huge reward. In another month, he estimated that the 100 Poisons sect's poisonous plants would be gone. Then, it would be those unknown poisonous pills and poisonous substances that were refined. He estimated that as long as he completed these poison testing tasks, the resources he would get would be enough for him to break through to the 4th or even the 5th level of the Royal Air Force. Yi Xian nodded slightly. At this moment, he was very nervous. To him, the poison pill was definitely more precious than the poison grass. At the same time, the poison might be stronger. If he was not careful, he would die suddenly. However, he had no other choice. After another month, Old Freak Hong finished accepting all the poison testing tasks in the 100 Poisons sect. What he brought over today was the poison pill. This is the newly refined poison pill of the 100 Poisons sect. This is the poison powder. Its toxicity is not as good as the others. Try it. Old Freak Hong threw a bag of things over. He knew that the cycle was gradual. First, he gave Yi Xian some slow-acting poison. If Yi Xian was poisoned to death, he would suffer a great loss. Yi Xian nodded and took a small bite of the poison pill. He would let the system test it first. Ding! The host is immune to the poison. The system notified. The poison pill was refined from a mixture of various poisonous plants. However, as long as Yi Xian was immune to all of the poisonous plants, the poison pill would have no effect on him. This poison pill was useless to him. Hence, he kept the rest into the devouring space and tested the poison powder. He sprinkled the poison powder on his left hand. In the next moment, he realized that the poison powder had seeped into his arm. Then, the flesh on his arm melted, and even his bones disappeared. F***CK. Yi Xian was scared to death. If he had sprinkled the poison powder on his face, his head would have melted. Fortunately, he had the bloodline of the sacred tree of life, so he could regrow his arm. However, he had to bear with the pain and mental stimulation. Okay. Old Freak Hong nodded. He left some poisonous plants for Yi Xian and kept the poison powder. He was afraid that Yi Xian would turn into a pool of blood after swallowing it. After Old Freak Hong left, Yi Xian's lips curled up slightly. After 2 months of hard work, he was almost done gathering the items. There might be some discrepancies, but it should be enough. Swallow it. Yi Xian directly swallowed all the heavenly materials and earthly treasures in the devouring space. Immediately after, he received a system notification. Ding! The host has broken through to 182 dragons. 160 dragons, an increase of 22, reaching 182 dragons. 180 dragons. Yi Xian had a 90% chance of breaking through. With the addition of the nethergrass, he had a 100% chance of breaking through. Alright, Aura Realm, here I come. Yi Xian swallowed the nethergrass and chose to break through. Ding! The host has broken through to Aura Realm. The system's notification was simple, but Yi Xian was extremely excited. Aura Realm. He had finally broken through to Aura Realm. Now, he should be called Rank 1 Qi Controlling Realm. With 182 dragons of strength, he only needed to increase by 18 more dragons to break through to Rank 2 Qi Controlling Realm. The amount and strength of my Qi has increased tremendously. If I can reach Rank 2 Qi Controlling Realm, I might be able to fight against Rank 3 Qi Controlling Realm experts. Yi Xian was shocked. In the next moment, he realized something. There was only one use left for Beast King's rampage. The amount of sacred beasts' corpses required for Beast King's rampage would increase with the increase in realm and usage. Yi Xian currently had 182 dragons of strength. The sacred beasts' corpses in the devouring space allowed him to use Beast King's rampage once. It was already not bad. I only have one trump card left. Yi Xian felt a little regretful, but there was nothing he could do about it. However, he now had something to do. Underworld swordsmanship and silver feather movement technique. Previously, due to the level restriction, he could only reach 60% mastery. Now, he should be able to reach 100% mastery. However, underworld swordsmanship was easy to improve, but silver feather movement technique was not, so he needed to work hard. Of course, before that, he had to experience the thrill of flying. Apart from the difference in Qi between the Vigor Realm and the Aura Realm allowed one to fly. This was a qualitative leap. Chapter 421. To be discovered at that moment, Yi Xian began to circulate his true Qi so that he could fly. Controlling Qi to fly was not difficult, and Yi Xian easily mastered it. However, because this was the 100 Poison Valley, he did not dare to fly randomly. At most, he would try to fly 3 meters above the ground. Although it was great, he still needed to improve his strength. Following that, Yi Xian began to practice the underworld swordsmanship and silver feather movement technique. In just 1 day's time, he had raised the underworld sword technique to 80% mastery, but the silver feather movement technique was not even 10% mastery. After that, he spent another 7 days to train the underworld swordsmanship to 90% mastery. As for the silver feather movement technique, he was only at 80% mastery. However, this was already quite good. After all, it was self-training, and martial arts were easier to achieve breakthroughs in battle. During these 7 days, Old Monster Hong didn't come either. On the 8th day, Old Monster Hong appeared again. His cultivation level had increased to 350 dragon power. Yi Xian understood that he must have received a reward from the 100 Poisons sect and was in seclusion before this. Today, there are 3 kinds of poisonous pills. Old Monster Hong walked over and handed 3 pills to Yi Xian. Yi Xian mentally prepared himself. Then, just like before, he took a small bite. He was immune to all the ingredients in the 3 poisonous pills. Then, he reported the toxicity of the pills to Old Monster Hong. Old Monster Hong firmly believed in Yi Xian's poison report now. He handed over an interspatial ring and said, "Very good. These are for you." Yi Xian took the interspatial ring and looked inside. There was a large amount of poisonous herbs and cultivation resources inside. "Your physique is indeed special. In just 2 short months, you actually broke through from 150 dragons to 182 dragons. These are for you. Cultivate well. If you meet my expectations, I don't mind taking you as my disciple," Old Monster Hong said. "What? You want me to be your disciple?" Yi Xian's eyes lit up. Yi Xian didn't care about being Old Monster Hong's disciple, but once he became a disciple of the 100 Poisons sect, he would truly be safe. "Yes, I will train hard," Yi Xian said gratefully. Although he was captured by Old Freak Hong and brought to the 100 Poisons sect, he had also benefited greatly. "All right, then you go ahead and cultivate." Old Monster Hong said. But before he could finish, a series of footsteps came from outside. Old Freak Hong frowned and said, "Don't go out." "Yes." Yi Xian nodded. "Old Monster Hong." A shout came from outside. Old Monster Hong walked out and shouted, "Steward Chiu, what are you doing here?" "TSK, I'm here to talk to you. Am I not welcome?" A middle-aged man's voice came from outside. Chiu Yang spit it out. Old Monster Hong snorted. "Old Monster Hong, you're still so unreasonable. I heard that you recently completed a large number of poison tests, so you must have found a good drug tester. I would like to meet him." Chiu Yang went straight to the point. "No." Old Monster Hong refused directly. What a joke. It was not easy for him to find Yi Xian, who was immune to poison. How could he meet him just like that? He knew that Chiu Yang was definitely not just here to meet him. He was here to poach him. "Old Monster Hong, you have such a drug tester. Are you not going to hand him over to the 100 Poisons sect but keep him for yourself?" Chiu Yang's tone changed. "Chiu Yang, what do you mean?" Old Monster Hong's face darkened. "Old Monster Hong, you should know what I mean." Chiu Yang did not explain. He was here to get a share of the pie. Old Monster Hong was not a fool. He naturally understood. However, he had just thought of taking Yi Xian as his disciple. How could he let him go? What if Chiu Yang brought something strong and poisoned Yi Xian to death? "I don't understand, and I don't want to understand. You can leave." Old Monster Hong snorted. Chiu Yang narrowed his eyes. He knew that Old Monster Hong was a man of his word. Once he had decided on something, he would not change his mind. "Okay." Chiu Yang turned around and left, but he would not let it go so easily. Old Monster Hong looked at his back and thought for a while. Then he walked into the wooden house and said to Yi Xian, "Come with me." Yi Xian knew what he meant. He had heard the conversation between Old Monster Hong and Chiu Yang clearly. Chiu Yang must have reported it to the higher-ups. He immediately followed Old Monster Hong and left the 100 Poisons Valley. However, as soon as they left, 2 people from the 100 Poisons Valley chased after them. Seeing this, Old Monster Hong's face sank to the bottom. One of the 2 was Chiu Yang, whom he had just met, and the other was a direct disciple of the 100 Poisons sect. "Old Monster Hong, why don't you salute a true disciple?" Chiu Yang looked at Old Monster Hong with a wicked smile. Old Monster Hong paused and said, "Greetings, young Master Shi." Young Master Shi was the true disciple of the 100 Poisons sect. He was the disciple of an elder of the 100 Poisons sect. He was at the 3rd level of Qi-controlling realm and had 380 dragons. Yi Xian's face was also very gloomy. Young Master Shi had 380 dragons, and Steward Chiu had 350 dragons, just like Old Monster Hong. It seemed that he was in for another tragedy this time. "Old Monster Hong, I heard that you caught a drug tester and completed the toxicity test of a large number of poisonous plants in our sect?" Young Master Shi was about 25 years old. As he spoke, his eyes fell on Yi Xian. "Yes, I completed those toxicity test tasks," Old Monster Hong said honestly. My master has been developing a kind of poisonous pill recently. None of the previous drug testers survived. Give him to me. You can name the price, young Master Shi said straightforwardly. Old Monster Hong refused decisively. Sorry, young Master Shi. I've already taken him as my disciple. Even though his status couldn't compare to that of a true disciple, he was still a steward of the 100 Poisons sect. He had been planting poisonous plants for the sect for decades, so it wouldn't be that easy for young Master Shi to snatch someone away from him. However, he had overestimated himself. So what? Young Master Shi did not care at all. Old Monster Hong's eyes turned cold. There are rules in our sect. Even stewards are qualified to take disciples. Therefore, he is now a disciple of the 100 Poisons sect, not a drug tester. Is this what you're counting on? Young Master Shi still did not take it to heart. He said, Moreover, I only asked him to help my master. Steward Hong, you won't refuse me, right? Sorry. Young Master Shi. I was just about to take him to my poisonous flower garden and teach him how to plant poisonous plants. Old Monster Hong refused again. Young Master Shi heard this and a murderous look flashed across his eyes. He said coldly, Are you refusing me? Yes. Old Monster Hong nodded solemnly. He had made up his mind to protect Yi Xian. Chapter 422. Medicine Tester, Old Monster Hong. I'll give you one more chance. Give him to me and I'll let this go. Otherwise, don't blame me for not caring about our relationship. Young Master Shi's eyes flashed and his tone was cold. I'm sorry. Old Monster Hong refused again without hesitation. However, as soon as he said those two words, young Master Shi made his move. The power of 380 dragons exploded. Young Master Shi crossed the distance of 100 meters and arrived in front of Old Monster Hong. 100 Poison Palm. Bang! Before Yi Xian could react, Old Monster Hong was already 1,000 meters away. Although the palm strike looked ordinary, it was a secret skill created by the sect leader of the 100 Poisons sect. Although it was not very powerful, young Master Shi's palm was laced with deadly poison. With the two-pronged attack, Old Monster Hong was almost killed. So fast! Yi Xian swallowed his saliva. Young Master Shi's speed was not something he could contend with. At this moment, he felt that his strength was nothing compared to young Master Shi. Even if there were 100 of him, he wouldn't be able to pose a threat to young Master Shi. Young Master Shi, this. Qiu Yang was stunned. Old Monster Hong spoke rudely to me. I didn't kill him because we're from the same sect. Young Master Shi snorted. He slapped Yi Xian's shoulder and lifted him up. Yi Xian was lifted up like a chicken again. It was a terrible feeling. However, his eyes were fixed on Old Monster Hong. He swore to himself that he would kill this bullshit young Master Shi. Young Master Shi was very fast. In the blink of an eye, Yi Xian was back in the 100 Poison Valley. Steward Qiu, this is for you. Young Master Shi threw something to Qiu Yang. Thank you, young Master Shi. Qiu Yang hurriedly expressed his gratitude. Immediately after, young Master Shi carried Yi Xian and flew to a remote place. He casually tossed Yi Xian aside and walked to the front of a wooden house. Master, I've caught another medicine tester. Young Master Shi shouted inside. Clang! The door of the wooden house opened and an old man with messy hair walked out. He was Elder Wu of the 100 Poisons sect. He glanced at young Master Shi and coldly snorted. Didn't I tell you to capture at least a 3rd-level Imperial Qi warrior? Master, this medicine tester is different, young Master Shi said anxiously. Chief Steward Hong used him to complete a large number of poison tests in the sect. He even tested many poison pills. I think he might be able to survive. Oh? Elder Wu was a little surprised. He took out a pill and threw it to Yi Xian. Kid, eat this. His tone was unyielding, not allowing Yi Xian to refuse. At this moment, Yi Xian felt like he was a commodity. He felt very uncomfortable. He engraved these people's faces in his mind. Then, he caught the pill and swallowed it. It looked like he had swallowed the pill, but in fact, he had only swallowed a small piece. The rest was kept in the devouring space. Fortunately, Yi Xian was immune to all the ingredients in the pill, so he was fine. 3 seconds after Yi Xian swallowed the pill, Elder Wu nodded and said, Good, you pass. This is for you. After he finished speaking, He took out a few things from his interspatial ring and gave them to young Master Shi. Young Master Shi took the reward and glanced at Yi Xian before leaving. Elder Wu looked at Yi Xian and said, "Kid, come in." Yi Xian had no way out. He braced himself and walked in. After he entered, Elder Wu took out a pill from a cauldron and threw it to Yi Xian. "This is the heartbreak pill I refined. It has already killed 7 people. The strongest one was 290 dragons." Elder Wu was different from Old Monster Hong. Old Monster Hong would give Yi Xian a few things after the incident, but Elder Wu spoke in a commanding tone. He didn't take Yi Xian seriously at all. Being reduced to a prisoner is truly miserable. Yi Xian braced himself as he received the pill, then swallowed it. The tragedy was that there were a few poisonous herbs in the heartbreak pill that he wasn't immune to. The moment he swallowed the pill, he was poisoned. Ding! Host has been poisoned. Detoxification in progress. Ding! Host has been poisoned. Detoxification in progress. Ding! Host has been poisoned. Detoxification in progress. 3 notifications sounded in succession. Yi Xian had been poisoned by 3 different poisons. At this moment, he felt his organs begin to rupture and then heal. The pain made him roll on the ground. It was as if there was a small knife cutting into his body. The previous few people died from the pain. I wonder if this person can hold on and report the poison to me. Elder Wu narrowed his eyes and looked at Yi Xian. Only when he knew the poison would he be able to continue improving the pill and concoct a poison that would be effective against the strong. However, what he didn't expect was that after half a minute of rolling on the ground, Yi Xian suddenly stopped wailing. At this moment, Yi Xian, who was lying in a pool of blood, suddenly got up. He made it! Elder Wu was astonished. This was the first time he saw someone who was still alive after taking his pill. At that moment he hurriedly asked, "Kid, how did you feel just now?" Yi Xian gritted his teeth and stood up. He told Elder Wu about what he felt just now and the poison of the heartbreak pill. He was relieved that he had only swallowed a little bit of the pill. If he had swallowed the entire pill, he would have died. After hearing Yi Xian's report, Elder Wu's eyes lit up. "Good, very good. This pill is for you. Recover and wait outside." He didn't expect Yi Xian to make it through. He immediately gave Yi Xian a bottle of healing pill. The pill he concocted was an acute poison. As long as he didn't die, he could still be saved. Yi Xian gritted his teeth and walked out. Compared to Old Monster Hong, Elder Wu was really inhumane. He didn't even give him a room to rest. He walked out and swallowed the pill, breaking through to 185 dragon power. Since his physique improved, his resistance to poison would also increase. He would be safer in the future. He stayed outside the wooden hut for an entire day. After that, he was called in by Elder Wu to take the second heartbreak pill. This second heartbreak pill was already improved by Elder Wu. Its poison was even stronger. However, this was only a change in the dosage. There were no new poisonous herbs added, so Yi Xian was immune to this heartbreak pill. However, he still rolled on the ground for a while to pretend. This made him sigh inwardly. It was really difficult to be an actor. After that, he was chased out again. Elder Wu continued to improve the heartbreak pill. On the 3rd day, Elder Wu called Yi Xian in again to test the 3rd heartbreak pill. After that, Yi Xian came out again and spent the night outside the wooden hut. Just like that, the days passed, and 7 days passed in a flash.